Chapter 11:17. In the three royal city, the rain fell for an entire night. When the sun rose in the east, the rain gradually stopped. In the Marquis Qingyuan manor, the ground was filled with corpses. A few women and girls who were knocked unconscious woke up. Their eyes were filled with confusion at first, but a moment later, they were frightened by the scene in front of them. In the next moment, mournful screams resounded throughout the manor. It was so sorrowful that it made one shudder. Not long later, groups of imperial army soldiers ran over. The leader was wearing heavy armor and had an extraordinary aura. It was the imperial army's grand commander, Xian Mo. Pushing open the manor, Xian Mo's eyes were filled with blood. She couldn't believe the scene before her eyes. In just one night, the entire Marquis Qingyuan manor was slaughtered. Only a few women and maids survived. It was truly unbelievable. Grand Commander, they are all blade wounds. There should only be one culprit. A few Imperial Army soldiers came back to report after checking the corpses. Xian Mo's expression froze. There was only one culprit? How was that possible? Let's go in and take a look. Xian Mo spoke before she walked towards the back of the Marquis' mansion. The deepest part of the manor was a mess after the battle. The kings who died in battle had their eyes wide open. Xian Mo squatted down and checked the injuries on Marquis Qingyuan's body. She frowned. There was only one culprit. But in the royal city, there were only a handful of people who could slaughter the entire Marquis Qingyuan manor. According to her knowledge, there was no reason for them to do such a thing. Furthermore, although Marquis Qingyuan was old, he still had the strength of a king. He shouldn't be so weak. Even if Marquis Qingyuan couldn't defeat the culprit, he should be able to escape or ask for help. After pondering for a long time, Xian Mo stood up and looked at the imperial army soldiers behind her. Seal the entire Marquis Qingyuan manor. No one is allowed to enter. At the back, the imperial army soldiers received the order and quickly left. At the same time, a secret report came from the Crown Prince and Third Crown Prince's manors. After Xian Zhen and Xian Qing saw it, their faces changed. Marquis Qingyuan manor was destroyed. How did this happen? Brother, what happened? In the Crown Prince's residence, the fifth prince asked in confusion. Something happened at Marquis Qingyuan Fu. Xian Zhen handed over the secret report and said in a deep voice, "Immediately send someone to investigate who did this." The fifth prince took the secret report and glanced at it. His expression immediately changed. He did not say anything unnecessary and immediately walked out of the hall. In the third crown prince's palace, Xian Qing handed over the secret report in his hand and asked, "What do you think?" Sixth Prince Xian Yu took the secret report and read the contents. He said seriously, "Right now, we still can't tell who did it. There are many experts who use the blade in the imperial city, but the number of people who can massacre Marquis Qingyuan's household in one night without anyone knowing can be counted on one's fingers. Go back to eldest imperial brother's side and sound him out. Something happened to Marquis Qingyuan Fu. Presumably, the one with the most heartache is that eldest imperial brother of ours." Xian Qing sneered. Xian Yu nodded and said, "Third imperial brother, you have to be careful these days. If something happens in Marquis Qingyuan's residence, eldest imperial brother's first suspect will definitely be you." "I understand." Xian Qing nodded. Now that the situation in the imperial city was getting more and more tense, and Marquis Qingyuan Fu had encountered a great calamity, everyone's attention would definitely be on the third crown prince's palace. Presumably, the two demon emperors also knew about this matter. Since imperial father wasn't here at this time, it was really troublesome. Xian Yu left the palace. Xian Qing stood quietly in the imperial palace with a serious expression. Imperial father was just trapped in the easternmost land, and such a big thing happened in third imperial city. Was it really a coincidence? In the ninth prince's palace, not long after the secret report was sent back, Xian Ke left the palace and headed straight for 13th prince's palace. In third imperial city, the news of Marquis Qingyuan Fu's destruction spread quickly. Everyone was shocked, and dark clouds covered the entire imperial city, making it hard for people to breathe. In 13th Prince's palace, Ning Chen, who single-handedly caused this situation, sat quietly in the imperial palace and drank tea. His expression was calm, and there were no ripples. "Your Highness, the 9th prince requests an audience." A guard quickly walked over and said respectfully, "Invite him in." Ningchen put down the tea in his hand and said, The guard accepted the order and turned to leave. Soon, the 9th prince entered the palace and walked towards the imperial palace. Ningchen stood up and walked to the front of the palace to welcome him. 9th imperial brother. 13th imperial brother, something happened. Xian Ke walked forward and said with a serious expression, "Have you received the news?" "What happened?" Ningchen said indifferently. "Last night, everyone in Marquis Qingyuan Fu was massacred. Even Marquis Qingyuan was not spared. Now, the imperial army has sealed off Marquis Qingyuan Fu, and no one is allowed to enter or leave. When I came, the entire imperial city was filled with imperial army figures. I think the imperial city is now under martial law." Xian Ke said seriously. "Marquis Qingyuan?" Ningchen frowned and said, "Isn't that from 1st Imperial Brothers faction? Could it be 3rd Imperial Brothers doing?" Xian Ke's expression changed slightly when he heard this, and he softly reprimanded, "13th Imperial Brother, don't talk nonsense. This is a serious crime. You can't say it casually." Ningchen smiled and said, "I understand. I only dare to say this when there's only 9th Imperial Brother and I. I will be careful in front of outsiders." Xian Ke nodded and said, "Actually, what you said just now is the guess of the majority of people. 3rd Imperial Brother is indeed the biggest suspect in the destruction of Marquis Qingyuan Fu. However, nothing is absolute. It's possible that someone deliberately framed 3rd Imperial Brother to do such an inhumane thing. If that's the case, then the person who did it is really sinister." Ningchen smiled. Xian Ke sighed and said, "No one knows the truth. I came here to inform 13th Imperial Brother. At this time, you must be careful. The matter of Marquis Qingyuan Fu will definitely cause a huge commotion. If you're splashed with dirty water at this time, there will be endless troubles." 9th Imperial Brother too. Ningchen said seriously, "You must be careful." Xian Ke nodded and said, "I still have to go back and deal with Marquis Qingyuan's matter. I won't stay any longer and will take my leave first." "Imperial Brother, please." Ningchen replied. 13th Imperial Brother, please wait." Xian Ke spoke, and then he walked out of the estate with large strides. Ningchen looked at the former's departing figure and the smile on his face gradually faded. He turned and returned to the hall. In the hall, Xiu heard the conversation between the two and thought of His Highness's bloody aura when he came back last night. Waves surged in her heart. "Don't make wild guesses." Ningchen reprimanded with a smile and said, "The tea is a bit cold. Go warm it up." Xiu respectfully accepted the order and walked forward to carry the tea out. Outside the hall, Shiqing looked at Xiu, who walked out, and whispered, "Sister, was His Highness the one who did what in Marquis Qingyuan Fu?" "Don't talk nonsense." Xiu's face sank and reprimanded, "Nothing happened yesterday. His Highness also didn't leave the Fu." Shiqing was shocked when she heard the reprimand. She immediately nodded and didn't dare to say anything more. Inside the hall, Ningchen looked at the scene outside and smiled faintly. He didn't care. In the imperial city, from dawn to sunset, the imperial guards came and went, searching for the murderer's whereabouts. The tense atmosphere pervaded the entire imperial city. From the nobles to the common people, everyone was anxious. In the west, the sun set and the sky gradually darkened. The imperial guards also began to change shifts. In the main hall of the 13th prince's residence, Ningchen sat quietly for a day, waiting for the sun to set. In the residence, the lights were lit. When the sky was completely dark, Ningchen got up and walked out of the residence. Xiu and Shiqing were shocked when they saw this. His Highness was going out of the residence? "Your Highness." Shiqing couldn't help but call out. Ningchen stopped and turned back to look at the two worried women in front of the hall. He smiled and said, "Just a small matter. Don't worry, I'll be back soon." After that, Ningchen didn't say anything else and stepped out of the residence. In the imperial city, a figure in plain clothes flashed by. Her speed was extremely fast. In an instant she was 100 miles away. In the northern True Prince's residence, plain clothes swept over, holding a knife, and began to kill. Blood splashed out. The guards in front of the prince's residence didn't even see the appearance of the person who came, and their bodies fell weakly. After a few breaths, in the prince's residence, a knife light flashed across the night sky. The king of hell mercilessly took lives. Boom! Not long after, the main hall in the prince's residence collapsed. The figure in plain clothes walked out and left with a knife. My lord! In the prince's residence, a desolate cry resounded through the night sky. In the imperial city, the imperial army heard the commotion and immediately rushed to the northern True Prince's residence. On the other side of the imperial city, Xianmo received the report and quickly rushed over. In the northern True Prince's residence, blood flowed everywhere. The same scene as in the Marquis Qingyuan's residence appeared before everyone's eyes. The prince's residence collapsed, and the king died. The knife wound that penetrated his chest destroyed his vitality. Xianmo looked at the scene in front of her, and her face became more and more solemn. Who was this person, and what was his purpose? Although Marquis Qingyuan and Marquis Beijing weren't peak experts in the king realm, they weren't people who could be easily bullied. Now, they were killed without anyone knowing. They didn't even have the chance to ask for help. Could it be that a peak king realm expert made a move? However, there weren't many peak king realm experts in the entire primordial demon region, and they weren't in the 3 imperial cities. If they had entered the city, he shouldn't have not noticed at all. Thinking of this, Xianmo sighed softly. The 3 imperial cities would probably be in chaos soon. In the main hall of the crown prince's residence, Xianzhen's face changed when he heard the report. Something had happened to Marquis Beijing? Almost at the same time, in the 3rd prince's residence, the news of Marquis Beijing's assassination came. Xianqing's face changed when he heard it. It was the crown prince's people again. This was troublesome. He wasn't sure before, but this time, he was sure that someone was deliberately framing him. In the 13th prince's residence, Ningchen stood quietly in front of the main hall. Looking at the chaos in the imperial city, his eyes became colder and colder. He wanted to see how long the crown prince could sit still. Even if he could sit still, his supporters wouldn't be able to remain calm. No one hoped that the knife would fall on their heads next time. If the crown prince didn't make a move, the hearts of the nobles would soon disperse. However, if the crown prince made a move, the knife would definitely fall on the 3rd prince's side. In this way, the battle between the 2 princes would become white-hot. Chapter 11:18. Under the night sky, the imperial army rushed to and fro, surrounding the entire northern True King's mansion. After Marquis Qingyuan Fu, northern True Wang Fu was also exterminated. Almost no one was left alive. The 9th prince, Xian Ke, rushed over. When he saw the state of the mansion, his expression turned grave. Trouble. Marquis Qingyuan and Beijing mansion were killed one after another. The crown prince couldn't be indifferent anymore. This time, there would be a big reshuffle in the imperial city. 9th prince, should we report this to the 2 demon kings? Xianmo asked as she looked at the 9th prince. Yes. Xian Ke nodded and said, we must. 2 nobles from the king's domain are in trouble. It's not something we can handle. The crown prince has arrived. At this moment, a sharp voice sounded outside the Beijing mansion. Soon, the crown prince of the Sky Devil royal family walked out from the imperial army. Greetings, crown prince. Greetings, first brother. Xianmo and Xian Ke bowed when they saw him. Xianzhen nodded and walked to them. He looked at the scene in the mansion with a cold expression. The destruction of the mansion was a blatant provocation. He couldn't take it anymore. The 3rd prince has arrived. At this moment, outside the prince's mansion, the sound of a messenger rang out again. The 3rd prince, dressed in white, appeared before everyone's eyes. He was extraordinarily handsome. The 1st crown prince and the 3rd crown prince arrived at the same time. The palace suddenly became abnormally quiet. The heavy atmosphere made everyone present nervous. First brother. Xian Qing looked at the person in front of him and said politely. Xianzhen looked back and said calmly, "Third brother, you're here too." Xian Qing nodded and said, "I heard that something happened to Beijing Mansion. I was worried, so I came to take a look." Like Marquis Qingyuan, it was done by a sword expert. "We can't find out who did it yet," Xianzhen replied calmly. There was no anger on his face. Xian Qing went forward and looked at the wound on Beijing Mansion's chest. He looked serious and said, "It was indeed done by an expert. There aren't many King's Domain cultivators who can do this." Judging from the extent of the damage done to the mansion, King Northern True didn't even have time to resist before he was killed. Based on this, we can infer that the murderer's strength is far beyond King Northern True's. There are only a few such experts in the entire primordial demon domain. As long as we investigate carefully, I think we will find something, Xianzhen said lightly. Imperial brother is right. Xian Qing nodded and said with a smile, "However, the primeval demon realm is vast. There are bound to be masters we don't know about. Moreover, even in the demon realm, there are some masters of the king realm who are not under the control of our royal family. It won't be easy to investigate them." Although the conversation seemed calm, there was a sharp edge to it. Everyone present became more and more nervous, afraid that the two crown princes would fall out on the spot. However, everyone's worries did not come true. After Xian Qing personally examined King Beijing's wound, he smiled and looked at the great prince and the two people behind him. He said, "Ninth brother and Commander Xian Mo still have duties to attend to. I will not disturb you here. Great brother, I will leave first." "Please," Xuanzhen said calmly. Xian Qing nodded and walked out of the mansion. After the third crown prince left, the ninth prince and Xian Mo heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, they were afraid that the two crown princes would fall out on the spot. "Investigate the case carefully. Don't worry about anything. Understand?" Xianzhen looked back at the two people behind him and said lightly. The ninth prince and Xian Mo accepted the order respectfully. After taking one last look at the ruined mansion, Xianzhen turned and left. His expression was cold, making people shudder. Xian Ke looked at the great prince's back and a strange light flashed in his eyes. The great brother's words clearly implied something. It seemed that the great brother was certain that the third brother was involved in this matter. In the 13th crown prince's mansion, under the night sky, a white-clothed figure danced with a sword under the moonlight. The cold sword light intertwined with each other. It was breathtaking and bone-chilling. 100 years of practicing the sword. Understanding the sword theory, listening to the sword breath. There was a sword on the sword. There was no end to it. The situation in the imperial city changed. All the forces were nervous. Only the 13th crown prince's mansion was unusually calm. It was not affected by the outside world at all. Under the moonlight, the sword technique ended. A curved sword light appeared, cutting through the void and splitting the night sky. Clang. After the final move, the divine weapon was sheathed. Ningchen looked at the Northern True Mansion in the distance. His calm eyes flashed with cold light. The turmoil had only just begun. Next, he would make the waters of the imperial city more and more muddy until everyone was dragged into it. Only when the heavenly demonic imperial family was in chaos would the other 5 imperial families have a chance to win. In the northern continent, at the center of the thousands of altars, Go Huang looked at the demonic area in the distance. The demonic area's fate was gradually changing. The 13th prince was not lying. It seemed that the time for the sorcerer tribe to send out their troops was getting closer. At the same time, the western sacred region, the divine capital mountain, and the stone tribe all looked at the primordial demonic area with ripples in their eyes. In the third imperial city, the night sky gradually disappeared and the sun shone on the earth. Xian Mo walked out of the Northern True Mansion and headed straight for the heavenly demonic ancestral land. The Marquis Qingyuan Mansion and the Northern True Mansion had been destroyed one after another. It was no longer something they could handle. They had to report it to the 2 demon emperors. The heavenly demonic ancestral land was surrounded by demonic qi. Xian Mo walked over and half knelt in front of the forbidden land. She said, "Greetings, demon emperors." Xian Mo, At this moment, a majestic voice sounded. Why have you come? Demon emperors, the Marquis Qingyuan mansion and the Northern True mansion have been destroyed in the past 2 days. The murderer is a saber expert. His identity has not been found yet. I think it is necessary to inform you, demon emperors, Xianmo said respectfully. Another majestic voice sounded in the depths of the ancestral land. Stand up and report. Thank you, demon emperors. Xianmo stood up and stood there quietly. There should be no saber expert in the Third Imperial City who could kill the Marquis Qingyuan mansion and the Northern True mansion. Have any other experts entered the city these days? The 7 luminaries demon emperor asked in the void. Xianmo shook her head and said, My duty is to guard the Imperial City. I would have sensed it if such an expert had come. Maybe you didn't sense it. The 8 Desolation demon emperor replied, It's not strange that you didn't sense it if the intruder has an imperial weapon or an artifact of the same level to conceal his presence. An imperial weapon? Xianmo frowned and said, There are only a handful of tribes in the primordial demon realm that possess an imperial weapon. They shouldn't have the guts to do it. It's a troubled time. The tribes are getting restless. It's not impossible for them to take the risk, the 7 luminaries demon emperor replied. Go back and increase the search with the Forbidden Army, especially the southwest of the Imperial City. It's easy for the tribes to hide there. We need to search carefully. Yes, I'll take my leave. Xianmo bowed respectfully and left. After Xianmo left, the demonic qi in the ancestral land gathered and concealed all presence. Xianmo walked out of the ancestral land with a serious expression. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's words were obviously hinting at something. It was true that the tribes were gathered in the southwest of the Imperial City, but the third prince's residence was located there. Xianmo returned from the third prince's palace. She immediately dispatched a large number of Forbidden Army to the southwest of the Imperial City. Xianqing's expression darkened when he received the report in the third prince's palace. Xianmo had dispatched a large number of Forbidden Army here. Was it the 2 demon emperors' idea? It was troublesome that his father was not in the ancestral land at the moment. Groups of Forbidden Army arrived outside the third prince's palace, but they patrolled from afar. Soon, Xianmo arrived. She glanced at the third prince's palace and said calmly, From today onward, increase the search. Don't let your guard down. In the rear, the Imperial Army generals replied, their hearts in turmoil. By doing this, they were essentially monitoring the third prince's residence. Inside the third prince's palace, Xianyu glanced at the Forbidden Army outside and said sternly, Brother, it seems like the 2 demon emperors are starting to suspect you. It's inevitable. Xianqing nodded and said, Marquis Qingyuan and Lord Beijing are both from the first prince's side. Not only the 2 demon emperors, but everyone in the third prince's palace also believes that I did it. I can't escape suspicion. But it's clearly not your doing, brother. Xianyu said, Why don't you go to the ancestral land and explain to the 2 demon emperors? There's no need, Xianqing said calmly. Xianqing said calmly, Unless the real culprit is found, I will definitely be blamed for this. No matter how much I explain, it will be a waste of energy. The truth was not important in the current situation. Everyone believed that he was the one who killed Marquis Qingyuan and Lord Beijing. If it were not for their extraordinary status, he would even suspect that the first prince had framed him. Brother, is there a way to solve this situation? Xinyu asked. Xianqing looked outside and thought for a long time. Then he said, I need to invite someone. Xianyu asked. 13th brother, Xianqing said slowly. Xianqing said slowly, It's not important whether this situation can be solved or not. What's important is how we can fight for the overall situation. We've tried so many times to rope in the 13th prince but failed. Now that the situation is not good for you, will he choose to support you? Xianyu asked worriedly. Whether he will or not depends on our sincerity, Xianqing said calmly. A few days ago, 13th brother asked me to help him get rid of someone. I didn't say anything at that time. Now, we have to make a decision as soon as possible. In the 13th prince's palace, Ningchen sat in the main hall and drank tea quietly for half a day. Beside him, Shiyu and Shiqing looked at each other helplessly. They could almost guess how chaotic the situation was outside, but His Highness was still in the mood to drink tea. Your Highness. At this moment, a guard quickly walked in and bowed respectfully. Someone from the 3rd prince's palace has come to invite your Highness to be a guest. I know. You can leave now. Ningchen put down the teacup in his hand and said indifferently. Yes. The guard accepted the order and left. I'm going out for a while. I'll be back before sunset. Ningchen stood up and looked at the two women beside him. He smiled and said, Send some tea to the 9th Underworld King's palace. Tell them that I asked you to send it. Chapter 1119. In the southwest of the 3rd imperial city, not far from the 3rd Crown Prince's palace, the imperial army came and went. Although they didn't get too close, they kept monitoring the situation in the 3rd Crown Prince's palace. In the 3rd Crown Prince's palace, Bai Yi and Su Yi sat facing each other, discussing countermeasures. 13th brother, you must have seen it when you came. Now, the imperial army has surrounded this place. Commander Xian Mo wouldn't have dared to do this without the permission of the 2 demon emperors. I didn't expect that even the 2 demon emperors would think that I killed Marquis Qingyun and Lord Beijing. This time, I really can't explain myself. Qianqing smiled bitterly. So, was it you who did this? Ningchen looked at the person in front of him and asked seriously. No. Qianqing shook his head seriously and said, I'm not stupid enough to put myself in such a passive situation. Even if I wanted to get rid of these 2 people, I would have used other methods instead of such an extreme method. Ningchen nodded. After a moment of silence, he opened his mouth and said, The current situation is indeed somewhat disadvantageous for Royal Brother. Although the 1st prince has lost 2 capable generals, Royal Brother has been pushed to the heart of the struggle. If you are the slightest bit careless, you will lose everything. I understand. Qianqing said seriously, So, I need your help, 13th brother. Ningchen frowned and said, You should know that I can't even protect myself now. After Xian Luo came to the imperial city, I had to be careful at all times. After all, it's difficult for me to deal with a master in the middle stage or even the late stage of the king realm. I may have a way to get rid of this person, Qianqing said seriously. Oh. Ningchen narrowed his eyes and said, Do you have a way, or are you willing to lend me your troops? Neither. Qianqing shook his head and said, 13th brother, have you heard of a kind of spell called the incantation technique? I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it, Ningchen said seriously. Tens of thousands of years ago, there was a great clan in the primordial demon realm that was famous for their spells. They were called Qi Huang, and because they were skilled in all kinds of strange spells, they flourished for a time. Legend has it that anyone who was cursed by the Qi Huang clan would not be able to escape the fate of death even if they were tens of thousands of miles away. Later on, the Qi Huang clan was annihilated by the joint forces of several great imperial clans because of their unjust deeds. Before the Qi Huang clan's grand elder passed away, he used his own life essence to inscribe the last 3 talismans of the curse. They are called the Heaven, Earth, and Human talismans. Among them, the strongest Heaven talisman and Earth talisman have long since gone missing. As for the Human talisman, it has been passed around a few times and has now fallen into my hands. While speaking, Qianqing took out a wooden box. In the wooden box, there was a green jade talisman lying quietly on a yellow silk cloth. A strange aura was circulating around it. It was very extraordinary. This is the Human talisman. Qianqing said seriously, although the Human talisman is not as powerful as the Heavenly talisman and the Earthly talisman, it still has incredible power. According to my estimation, the power contained in this Human talisman is enough to kill an expert who has just entered the King realm without being aware of it. As long as Xian Luo's cultivation has not exceeded the King realm late stage, this Human talisman will definitely seriously injure him, even if it can't kill him. With your strength, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to kill a seriously injured expert in the King realm. Now that your whereabouts are being monitored all the time, I can only help you to this extent. Ningchen looked at the talisman in the wooden box and thought quietly for a long time. Then he put the talisman away and said, "Thank you, third brother." Seeing that Ningchen had accepted the human talisman, Xianqing was secretly relieved. Now that Ningchen was willing to accept his kindness, it would be easier to deal with the rest. When 13th brother left the demon region, did you encounter some assassins in black? Xianqing asked seriously. Ningchen nodded and said honestly, no less than 10 times. Have you ever thought about who sent these people? Xianqing asked. I have some guesses, but I don't have any evidence. Ningchen looked at the crown prince's mansion in the northwest and said, in the whole imperial city, only that person deliberately wants to kill me. 13th brother, I know you don't want to be involved in the fight for the throne between me and my brother. But you have seen the situation now. You and I are both people that my brother wants to kill at all costs. If we don't join hands, he will defeat us one by one soon. Xianqing didn't beat around the bush and said directly, 13th brother, I need your help. Ningchen was silent for a moment and said, what do you need me to do? Hearing this, Xianqing's eyes flashed with joy. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and said, it's very simple. You just need to stand out and say something for me. You don't need to do anything else. Okay. Ningchen nodded and said seriously, since Royal Brother has been wronged, it's not a big deal for Royal Brother to speak up for Royal Brother. In addition, I will find a way to tell Commander Xian Mo about Royal Brother's injustice. I hope Commander Xian Mo will stop monitoring Royal Brother's whereabouts. Hearing this, Xianqing stood up, cupped his fists and bowed, saying, 13th brother, I thank you first. Seeing this, Ningchen also stood up and supported the person in front of him. He said softly, don't be so polite, brother. This is what I should do. After saying what needed to be said, Ningchen didn't stay any longer. After saying goodbye, he left the third crown prince's mansion. Outside, the sun was setting. A day was about to pass. Ningchen glanced at the imperial army patrolling not far from the crown prince's mansion. He smiled faintly and walked away. At the 13th crown prince's mansion, Ningchen returned at sunset. In the mansion, Xiyu and Shiqing had already returned and were waiting quietly. Have you sent the tea? Ningchen walked into the hall and asked. Yes, Xiyu said softly. What did master say? Ningchen picked up the tea on the table, took a sip and said calmly. The demon emperor told your highness to be careful with your words and actions. You're not afraid of trouble, but you shouldn't cause trouble, Xiyu said. Hearing this, Ningchen smiled. His master really knew him. He knew that he was going to cause trouble again. Tomorrow, send another type of tea over, Ningchen instructed. Yes, Xiyu said respectfully. You can leave first, Ningchen said. Yes. Shiyu responded and walked out of the hall together with Shiqing. After leaving the hall, Shiqing finally couldn't suppress the doubts in her heart. She asked softly, Sister, the demon emperor of the underworld doesn't seem to like drinking tea. Why did your highness send tea? Your highness isn't sending tea. He's asking a question, Xiyu said softly. Shiqing was puzzled. What do you mean? Xiyu looked back at the white-clothed figure in the hall and said, Your highness should be asking the demon emperor about something. I don't understand. Shiqing shook her head. It's so troublesome. Why doesn't your highness just go and ask? I don't really understand either. Xiyu sighed. Maybe he can't go. Well, these things shouldn't be known to us. Just do what your highness has asked us to do. Oh. Shiqing nodded as if she didn't fully understand and responded softly. In the hall, Ningchen sat quietly, drinking cup after cup of tea. Thoughts flashed through his eyes. So far, there were two urgent matters that had to be resolved as soon as possible. The first matter was the trouble of Xian Luo. Xian Luo knew his identity. Although he was afraid of his master and didn't dare to come out and tell the truth, he was still an uneasy factor. Once Xian Luo sensed danger, he might choose to reveal everything and destroy everything. If that day came, even his master couldn't protect him. Although the war between the heavens beyond and the primordial demon realm hadn't broken out yet, since the three demon emperors had decided to fight between the two realms, they wouldn't let him leave alive. As for the second matter, It was to stir up internal strife in the heavenly demon imperial family as soon as possible. Compared to the first matter, it was actually more difficult. The matter of stirring up internal strife in the heavenly demon imperial family must be kept from his master. After all, his master was the emperor of the heavenly demon clan. He wouldn't allow him to do as he pleased. In these 2 days, he didn't dare to go to the 9th Serenity King's mansion because he was afraid that his master would detect the bloody smell on him. The strength of an emperor supreme was beyond measure. He had to be careful. Outside the hall, night fell. Ningchen got up and walked out of the hall. At this time, Xiu came in with a cup of hot tea. When she saw that His Highness was about to go out again, her expression changed. "Don't think too much. I'm just going out for a walk today and have a drink with someone." Ningchen saw through the thoughts of the girl in front of him. He smiled softly and walked out of the mansion. On the streets of the imperial city, the imperial guards were running. The whole city was under martial law. Now that 2 members of the imperial family were in trouble, everyone in the imperial city was in danger. They were afraid that they would be next. Ningchen walked quietly on the street. His expression was calm and indifferent. He wasn't affected by the tense atmosphere in the imperial city at all. In the southeastern part of the imperial city, in an inconspicuous little courtyard, the lights were on. A beautiful woman was busily preparing dinner for her husband who had just returned. After taking off her heavy armor, Xianmo's face was less serious and more peaceful. She sat at the table and ate. The feeling of home was always in the simplest dish of vegetables and a bowl of rice. It made people linger. "Sit down and eat. You can clean up after you eat." Seeing that the woman was still busy, Xianmo said. Hearing this, the woman smiled gently and said, "Okay. You've worked hard these 2 days. Xianmo looked at his wife sitting opposite him and said softly, "You're busy outside. Naturally, I have to take care of the things at home." The woman smiled and said, "You must be exhausted these 2 days." Facing his wife, Xianmo didn't deliberately hide anything. She reminded her, something happened in the imperial city. Now it's under martial law. If there's nothing important, don't go out these days. The woman didn't ask more and nodded. Outside the small courtyard, a figure in plain clothes stood quietly. Looking at the warm scene in the courtyard, she didn't go in to disturb. Demons were emotionless by nature, but there were exceptions. His master and Xianmo in front of him were both emotionless people. This was one of the few warmth he could see in the cold imperial family of celestial demons. He didn't know how long this scattered warmth could last. Although he didn't want to, one day in the future he might destroy everything in front of him with his own hands. Chapter 11:20. In the southeast of the third imperial city, in an inconspicuous courtyard, the lights flickered. It was not a sumptuous dinner, but it took almost an hour. Outside the courtyard, Ningchen also waited quietly for an hour. He did not take a step forward. After the two finished their dinner, the woman stood up and started to clean the table. Xianmo looked at her wife and said softly, "We have guests." The woman was surprised. She looked outside the courtyard and asked, "It's already so late. There's still someone here?" "It's the 13th prince. Maybe something happened." Xianmo stood up and replied. "The 13th prince? Then go open the door. Don't let him wait too long," the woman said anxiously. Xianmo nodded and walked outside. Outside the courtyard, Ningchen saw Xianmo walking toward him. He stopped thinking and knocked on the door. After 3 knocks, the door creaked open. The two looked at each other without much emotion on their faces. "Your Highness, sorry to keep you waiting. Please come in," Xianmo said. "It's my pleasure," Ningchen softly replied before walking into the small courtyard. In the courtyard, the night was cold. The woman who was cleaning the table saw the crown prince and immediately bowed respectfully. "Greetings, 13th prince." "You're welcome." Ningchen stepped forward and helped the woman up. He smiled and said, "It's already so late. Please don't be offended." "Your Highness, we always welcome you whenever you come. How can we be offended?" The woman said softly. "It's cold outside." "Your Highness, please come in," Xianmo said. Sorry to disturb you. Ningchen nodded and walked forward. Inside the room, the lights flickered. The two sat down at the table. The woman brought hot tea and placed it on the table. Can we just drink wine without tea today? Ningchen looked at the Grand Commander and asked. Xian Mo raised her hand. The woman understood and brought the tea out. I heard that your highness loves tea. Why did you change today? Xian Mo said calmly. I've been drinking tea for 2 days. I'm a bit tired, Ningchen said with a smile. Oh. Xian Luo was surprised and asked, why? These are troubled times. I don't want to get involved in any trouble, so I can only stay in the mansion and drink tea to pass the time, Ningchen said helplessly. Hearing this, Xian Mo frowned slightly and said, Today, my subordinate also reported to me that His Highness went to the third prince's residence. So brother Xian Mo already knows. Ningchen sighed softly and said, Originally, I didn't want to get involved in this storm, but I didn't expect that in the end I still couldn't avoid it. It's not the first time the third prince has tried to rope you in. Why don't you drag things out and avoid this storm? Xian Mo said with a serious expression. Regarding the matter of the Marquis of Qingyun and the Northern True King, even the 2 demon emperors have suspected the third prince. At this time, it's best if you don't get too close to him. As she spoke, the woman walked into the house again and brought out 2 jars of wine. It wasn't any expensive wine, but just some homebrewed wine. She knew that her husband had a lot of things to do tomorrow, so she didn't bring any wine that was too strong. After putting down the wine, the woman silently retreated, not saying a single word from beginning to end. It's not that I don't want to avoid it, but that I can't avoid it. Ningchen looked at the jars of wine on the table and said with emotion, Today, the third prince has already made it clear. If I refuse again, I will really offend the crown prince. It's precious to send charcoal in the snow, but adding frost to the snow will make people jealous. After a moment of silence, Xian Mo said, Even if I offend the third prince, if I can stay out of it, I think it's worth it. Ningchen shook his head and said, Brother Xian Mo, maybe you don't know, but now the conflict between the first prince and me is irreconcilable. In the days when I left the primeval demon realm, I encountered more than one assassination attempt. In fact, it's very obvious who sent them. If I offend the third prince, it's equal to offending the 2 crown princes and all the nobles behind them at the same time. In the future, it will be very difficult for me to gain a foothold in the 3 imperial city. With the 9 Serenities demon emperor, who dares to touch you? Xian Mo said in a low voice. Ningchen smiled and said, Master is the emperor of the demon clan, but the fathers of the 2 crown princes are also emperors of the demon clan. If the first prince and the third prince make trouble, it will be difficult for Master to intervene. Hearing this, Xian Mo fell silent again. After a long time, she sighed and said, Maybe you shouldn't have entered the imperial family. Maybe, Ningchen said with emotion, but it's useless to talk about it now. I'm here to tell brother Xian Mo that I've promised the third prince to help him. Hearing the former's words, Xian Mo's expression darkened. She didn't care about the difference in status and reprimanded in a low voice, Your Highness is confused. Don't you see that the third prince is now under the surveillance of the imperial army? If you help him at this time, you will only cause trouble for yourself. Brother Xian Mo, to be honest, I think the death of Marquis Qingyuan and Northern True King has nothing to do with the third prince. Ningchen said with a serious expression, If the third prince wants to get rid of Marquis Qingyuan and Northern True King, he can use other methods. Why do you have to go to such extremes and push yourself into such a passive situation? People's hearts are unpredictable. We are not the third prince, so we can't know what he is thinking. Now, everyone suspects that the 2 sects were destroyed by him. Don't be stupid. At least, before the third prince is cleared of suspicion, don't get involved. Xian Mo reminded seriously again. I've already promised him that I will speak up for him. Ningchen picked up the wine jar on the table, opened the wine seal, and smiled. Everything has its pros and cons. Maybe if I help him this time, there will be unexpected gains in the future. Hearing this, Xian Mo sighed, but didn't try to persuade him anymore. She took the wine jar and said calmly, Your Highness is a smart person. You can understand the pros and cons better than a rough person like me. Since your highness has already made your choice, I won't say anything more. I hope your highness can really get what you want." The wine jars collided with each other. The two of them raised their heads and drank a mouthful of wine. When the wine entered their throats, there was a hint of spiciness in the sweetness, which pierced their minds. Brother Xiannim Ningchen put down the wine and looked at the busy women outside the room. He said softly, "In the entire imperial city, only with Brother Xianimo here can I feel the warmth of a family." Xianimo looked at his wife and said, "If you place too much importance on fame and fortune, you will lose more important things. Your Highness, there is something I don't know if I should say." "Brother Xianimo, please say it," Ningchen replied. Xianimo retracted her gaze and looked at the person in front of her. She said seriously, "Your Highness is the most special person I have ever met. You are so intelligent. Logically speaking, your Highness should have the most happiness in the world. However, I see too many regrets in your Highness." Ningchen was silent. After a while, he said, "Most people don't get what they want in life. Perhaps, I have one or two more than normal people." Outside, the sky was getting darker. When Ningchen was a little tipsy, he got up and said goodbye. In the wind, Ningchen's body was surrounded by black fog. His white clothes and white hair turned black. With Crazy Bone in his hand, the yellow spring seal was activated. Outside the third prince's palace, the imperial guards changed their guard. One group of imperial guards left, and another group came. At this moment, a sandstorm suddenly appeared. A black figure flashed by and a merciless blade was about to take a life. The imperial guards in charge of patrolling didn't even have time to react to the sudden change. Crazy Bone cut their throats and blood spurted out. "Assassin!" A general came back to his senses and immediately warned. However, the God-forbidden space sealed the area. Dozens of imperial guards seemed to have disappeared into thin air. The night covered the ugliness of the killing. Not long after, the black figure walked out and walked away. The God-forbidden space spread out. On the street, every inch of the ground was stained with blood. Far away, in the third prince's palace, Xianqing, who was deep in thought, suddenly got up and looked outside the palace. There was the smell of blood. Xianqing had an ominous feeling. He took a step forward and disappeared from the palace. Outside the palace, Xianqing appeared. When he saw the shocking scene in front of him, his pupils shrank. Trouble. In the 12th prince's palace, a cold wind blew. A black-haired figure in black walked over. He raised his hand and brushed it across his face. In the next moment, the black-robed figure flew into the 12th prince's palace. Boom! Suddenly, an aura that was infinitely close to that of a King Realm expert exploded. The blade slashed with demonic chi. Blood splattered everywhere. The entire 12th prince's palace shook violently. Xianqing, so you really did it. A furious roar came from the 12th prince's palace. The 12th prince's palace protector moved and blocked the person with all his might. Your Highness, run. The 12th prince's palace protector shouted anxiously. A moment later, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. The entire crown prince's palace was reduced to ashes in the battle. A young man in luxurious clothes flew out and quickly escaped. You can't escape. A cold voice sounded from behind, and the blade light slashed down, earth-shattering. Your Highness, run. At this moment, the 12th prince's palace protector flew over and blocked the old man with his body. The black blade pierced through the old man, bringing out blood. After a short delay, the 12th prince disappeared into the night. I hope you won't disappoint me. Behind him, the black-robed figure turned and left. In front of the 13th prince's palace, the black fog dissipated. A white-haired figure in plain clothes walked out and returned to the palace. Your Highness. Shiyu stepped forward and bowed. Prepare a cup of hot tea. I drank some wine, so I'm a little cold, Ningchen said tiredly. Yes. Shiyu respectfully accepted the order. Confusion flashed in her eyes, but she didn't ask much. She quickly walked to the back of the palace. How could he be cold after drinking wine? Confused, Shiyu looked back at the figure walking toward the palace. For some reason, at this moment, she felt that His Highness's body didn't seem so straight. Not long after, Xiu walked back to the palace with the hot tea. She poured the tea and handed it over. "Your Highness, if you're tired, you can rest after drinking the tea," Xiu said softly. "I can't rest yet." Ningchen took a sip of the hot tea. He looked outside and said, "Xiu, the weather is going to change soon." Hearing this, Xiu also looked out of the hall and said softly, "Winter is indeed coming." Ningchen silently drank the hot tea. However, he couldn't get rid of the chill in his body. Chapter 11:21. It was a cold night. Blood splattered across the streets. The figure in luxurious clothes staggered forward, barely managing to hold on until he collapsed in front of the Crown Prince's residence. Inside the Crown Prince's residence, Xianzhen sensed something. His expression changed and he immediately rushed out. The figure lying on the ground in front of the residence was covered in blood. It was a miserable sight. Xianxiu. Xianzhen's pupils constricted. He stepped forward and helped Xianxiu up. "Who was it? Who injured you like this?" "Qing." The 12th prince used the last of his strength to spit out 2 words. Then his arms fell and he fainted. Seeing this, Xianzhen roared. His demonic essence surged and entered the 12th prince's body. A moment later, Xianzhen carried the unconscious Xianxiu and quickly walked toward the residence. "This is..." The crown princess' expression changed when she saw the figure in her husband's arms. How could Xianxiu be like this? "Go get Mr. Feng," Xianzhen said. "I'll go right away." The crown princess nodded and immediately left. Xianzhen carried Xianxiu into the imperial palace. He flipped his right palm, and a green pill appeared. The pill was surrounded by green light and boundless vitality. His younger brother's life was in danger. Xianzhen didn't dare to hesitate. He stuffed the pill into Xianxiu's mouth. Then, he flipped his palm and condensed his essence to help Xianxiu digest the pill. The next moment, green light shone brightly on Xianxiu's body. Vitality spread through his body like waves, fighting for his life with the King of Hell. "Mr. Feng is here." About 15 minutes later, the crown princess returned with an elder. Seeing the figure in the palace, she immediately walked in. "Mr. Feng, please." Xianzhen heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the person. Feng Shidao nodded. He took 2 steps forward and checked the 12th prince's injuries. Demonic threads appeared in his hand and entered the 12th prince's body as if they were alive. Xianzhen watched the elder solemnly from the side. He didn't say anything to disturb him. After the demonic threads entered Xianxiu's body, they pierced through his destroyed organs and reconnected them. The 12th prince, who was heavily injured and on the verge of death, gradually stabilized his breathing. At the most critical moment, he was pulled back from the gates of hell by the chief imperial physician of the Heaven Devil race. An hour later, Feng Shidao withdrew the demonic threads from Xianxiu's body. He looked at the crown prince and said, "Your Highness, the 12th prince's life is no longer in danger. He'll be fine after resting for a few days." Hearing this, Xianzhen's heart finally relaxed. "Your Highness, may I be so bold as to say that from the injuries on the 12th prince's body, the murderer clearly wants to kill him. This is no small matter. Your Highness, you should report this to the Devil Emperor." Feng Shidao said. "I understand." Xianzhen nodded. "All right, since your Highness is fine, I shall take my leave." Feng Shidao bowed respectfully before preparing to leave. "I'll send Mr. Feng off," Xianzhen said softly and stepped forward. Outside the Crown Prince's residence, the 2 of them walked out together. Feng Shidao looked at the Crown Prince beside him and said, "Your Highness, please wait. This humble subject will take his leave." "Take care, Mr. Feng," Xianzhen said politely. Feng Shidao nodded and walked toward the 3 emperors' palace. After watching Feng Shidao leave, Xianzhen turned around and returned to his residence. His calm expression gradually darkened. Before Xianxiu fainted, he mentioned the 3rd prince's name. Could it really be Xianqing? In a small courtyard in the southwest of the imperial city, the tipsy Xianmo was about to rest when suddenly, anxious footsteps sounded from outside the courtyard. "Commander, it's not good." The imperial guards outside the third prince's residence are all dead. When the bad news came, Xian Mo's body trembled. The tipsy feeling immediately disappeared, and she came back to her senses. She took the heavy armor on the table beside her and walked out. Not far away, the woman also heard the report from the soldiers outside. She didn't stop her and softly said, "Be careful." Xian Mo nodded. She didn't dare to delay and quickly left the courtyard. Outside the courtyard, the soldiers who were waiting saw the commander walk out. They immediately went forward and said anxiously, "Commander, let's talk on the way," Xian Mo said as she strode forward, her pace becoming faster. On the streets of the imperial city, the imperial army was running. Before the two of them had gone far, another imperial army soldier quickly walked over. When he saw Xian Mo, he hurried forward and said, "Grand Commander, something has happened." Xian Mo lightly nodded and said, "No need to say more. I already know. Let's go to the third prince's residence now." The third prince's residence? The soldier was puzzled. Why are we going there? Shouldn't we go to the 12th prince's residence first? The 12th prince? Xian Mo frowned and said, "What do you mean? Explain." "Commander, have you not received the report yet?" The soldier looked at the imperial guard beside Xian Mo and said, "The 12th prince's residence was attacked by assassins. The 12th prince escaped, but it's still unknown whether he's dead or alive." What? Xian Mo's expression changed. Something happened to the 12th prince? Let's go to the 12th prince's residence first. Xian Mo's expression darkened. She quickly changed her direction and walked toward the 12th prince's residence. The 12th prince's residence was a mess. After a big battle, the entire residence was destroyed. It was extremely desolate. Xian Mo walked among the ruins and her expression darkened. The imperial guards outside the third prince's residence were killed, and then the 12th prince's residence was massacred. Was there a connection? Report. At this moment, outside the residence, a soldier hurried in. When he saw the commander, he respectfully said, "Commander, the first prince's residence sent a message. The 12th prince was severely injured. Before he fainted, he mentioned the third prince's name." When Xian Mo heard this, her body trembled. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. How could it be? Was it really the third prince's doing? Killing the imperial guards and massacring the prince's residence. Even the crown prince of the imperial family could not bear such a crime. How is the 12th prince now? Did the first prince mention it? Xian Mo collected her thoughts and asked the imperial guard behind her, "Commander, the first prince said that Mr. Feng had gone to take a look. The 12th prince's life is no longer in danger," the imperial guard replied truthfully. Xian Mo heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that the 12th prince's life was not in danger. However, before she could finish heaving a sigh of relief, Xian Mo's heart was in her mouth again. If the 12th prince was fine, then he was the only witness. If the third prince was the murderer, then things would be really troublesome. Go to the third prince's residence. Xian Mo no longer hesitated and ordered. In the third prince's residence, Xian Qing sat in the hall. He already knew about the massacre of the 12th prince's residence. The usually calm third prince's face darkened at this moment. He knew that he had been set up. The 12th prince's escape was not a coincidence. Someone must have done it on purpose. He could even guess what was going to happen next. First, it was Marquis Qingyuan's residence. Then, it was Lord Beijian's residence. Now, it was the 12th prince's residence. Step by step, he was doomed. What a frightening scheming and frightening execution. Who was this person? Outside the crown prince's mansion, groups of imperial guards were rushing. Behind them, Xian Mo walked over and looked at the crown prince's mansion. She said in a deep voice, "Surround it." "Grand Commander, what are you doing?" Xian Qing opened the door of the third prince's residence and looked at Xian Mo in front of him. "Your Highness, please forgive me. The imperial guards outside your residence were killed. Not long after, the 12th prince's residence was also destroyed. Just in case, I had to send the imperial guards to seal off the scene," Xian Mo said calmly. "Commander, do you think this is my doing?" Xian Qing's eyes were cold. I don't dare. But the first prince's residence sent a message saying that the 12th prince mentioned the third prince's name before he fainted. I had no choice but to do this, Xian Mo said. Hearing her words, Xian Qing's heart sank. As expected, the 12th prince did not die and even testified against him. Everything that had happened in the past 3 days was like a huge conspiracy against him. Step by step, they were trying to trap him into a place of eternal damnation. So you're all here. At this moment, a man in plain clothes walked over. He was not fast, but he attracted everyone's attention. The 13th prince? Everyone was surprised when they saw who it was. Why was the 13th prince here? 13th brother. Xian Qing was happy. The 13th prince had come at this time. Greetings, your highness. Xian Mo and the imperial guards bowed respectfully. Rise, Ningchen said calmly. He looked at Xian Mo and smiled. Brother Xian Mo, what are you doing? You sent troops to surround the residence. That's not a small crime. Your highness, you don't know. 2 hours ago, the imperial guards outside the third prince's residence were all killed. Not long after, the 12th prince's residence was destroyed. The 12th prince was seriously injured. Before he fainted, he testified against the third prince. I'm just following the rules, Xian Mo said seriously. The 12th prince testified against the third prince? Ningchen was surprised. How is that possible? Is there a misunderstanding? Did the 12th prince say that the third prince tried to kill him? Xian Mo frowned and said, No, the 12th prince only mentioned the third prince's name. He fainted before he could say anything else. That's it. Ningchen smiled. Brother Xian Mo, how can you send troops to surround the third prince's residence before the truth is out? After all, the third prince is the crown prince. How can he be wronged? Wronged? 13th brother, you have a glib tongue. The crime of killing imperial guards and injuring his brothers is that the commander and I have wronged him. Before he finished speaking, a dignified and cold figure strode over from the north. Behind him, the 5th prince and the 6th prince followed on his left and right. Their imposing manner was extraordinary, and it was very eye-catching. The crown prince. The imperial guards were shocked. The crown prince had also come. In front of the third prince's residence, the 3 crown princes of the Sky Demon imperial family had arrived. The situation became tense. Eldest brother. Ningchen smiled and said, Framing the crown prince is also a big crime. Eldest brother, you have to take responsibility for what you just said. Chapter 11:22. It was a cold night. The 3 heavenly demon crown princes gathered under the moonlight. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. Ningchen didn't show any fear in front of the first crown prince. He smiled at Xianzhen. Xianzhen sneered and said, Framing the crown prince is a serious crime, but protecting the murderer of the first prince is also a crime punishable by death. 13th prince, this has nothing to do with you. I advise you not to get involved. What if I refuse? Ningchen smiled. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being heartless as your elder brother. Xianzhen's face darkened. He looked at the commander and said, Commander Xian Mo, one of the 2 men in front of you killed the first prince and the other protected the murderer. As the commander of the imperial army, shouldn't you do something? Xian Mo sighed and waved his hand. Surround the third crown prince's residence. Who dares? Do you want to rebel? Xian Qing, who had always been good at enduring, couldn't suppress his anger anymore. The pride of the crown prince didn't allow him to bear such humiliation and injustice. The imperial army soldiers behind Xian Mo looked at each other. Finally, they looked at the commander in front of them. Surrounding the crown prince's residence was a serious crime. Brother Xian Mo, third brother, is the crown prince. It's too much to seal the residence before the truth is out. Ningchen looked at the man in front of him and said calmly. So what if he's the crown prince? The safety of the imperial city can't be neglected. Marquis Qingyuan, Lord Beijing, and the 12th prince have all been assassinated. No one can guarantee that the next target won't be any of us here, the 5th prince said from behind the first crown prince. Xian Qing's face turned cold when he heard this. He looked at the fifth prince behind the first crown prince and said, "Fifth prince, I think you know better than anyone that trouble comes from careless talk." The fifth prince smiled faintly and said, "Third brother, are you threatening me? I'm not 12th prince. I won't let others hurt me so easily." "Is that so?" Before he finished speaking, a figure in plain clothes flashed past. It was so fast that no one had time to react. There was no true essence fluctuation, only the control of time and space. In an instant, the sword finger condensed and pointed at the person in front of him. The fifth prince's pupils shrank fiercely, and he subconsciously raised his hand to block in front of him. However, he felt a huge force coming towards him, and with a bang he was knocked back several steps. After pointing, the white-clothed figure turned around and returned to her original position. 13th brother, The fifth prince was furious. Just as he was about to retaliate, he was stopped by the crown prince. Xianzhen calmly looked at the young man in front of him and said, 13th brother, you're quite skilled. It's just a trick to protect himself. Eldest brother's cultivation is something that all of us are envious of. Ningchen smiled. Xianzhen looked at him and said coldly, "Are you going to protect this murderer who killed your own people today?" "I'm just stating the truth. How am I shielding you? Moreover, third brother isn't a murderer who would harm his own kind," Ningchen said indifferently. The situation was in a stalemate. Xianzhen's thoughts quickly flashed through his mind. Now that 12th brother hadn't woken up, he couldn't convict Xianqing of his crimes. With the addition of 13th brother, it would be difficult to convict Xianqing today. Thinking of this, Xianzhen looked at Xianimo and said calmly, "Commander, I hope that before 12th brother wakes up, there won't be any more assassinations in the imperial city." "Don't worry, Crown Prince." Xianmo bowed and said, "I've already sent the imperial army to enforce martial law. We'll bring the murderer to justice as soon as possible." Xianzhen nodded and looked at the white-clothed young man on the other side. He said calmly, 13th brother, I'll give you face today. However, if 12th brother wakes up and identifies the murderer himself, I hope you'll still be eloquent like today. Eldest brother, have a safe trip. Ningchen ignored Xianzhen's words and bowed with a smile. Let's go. Xianzhen said coldly and turned around to leave. The fifth prince and the sixth prince glanced at the two figures in front of the mansion and followed them without saying anything. In front of the third prince's mansion, Ningchen looked at Xianimo and said with a smile, Brother Xianimo, eldest brother has left. Can the imperial army behind you retreat? Retreat 1,000 steps and patrol 24 hours a day. Don't be negligent. Xianimo looked at the imperial army behind her and ordered. Everyone accepted the order and retreated. 1,000 steps away, the imperial army stopped and stood guard, monitoring the third prince's mansion. In front of the third prince's mansion, Xianqing's face was still gloomy, but he didn't say anything. He knew that this was Commander Xianmo's bottom line and he couldn't force it. Third prince, I hope that you won't leave the imperial city for the next 2 days. Xianmo said calmly and turned to leave. Ningchen looked at Xianqing's back and sighed in his heart. Sorry, for the peace of the outer world and the inner world, he couldn't be merciful. This was just the beginning. 13th brother, thank you. In front of the mansion, Xianqing looked at the young man in front of him and thanked him. You're welcome, third brother. Ningchen withdrew his gaze and shifted his gaze to the former. He smiled and said, I've already promised to help third imperial brother speak a word of justice. I won't go back on my word. Even so, I still have to thank 13th brother. If 13th brother didn't come in time today, eldest prince would have forced the imperial army to put me under house arrest, Xianqing said. You are the crown prince. In this world, only the 4 demon emperors are qualified to convict you. Even eldest prince can't. However, at this point, Ningchen's tone changed and he said seriously, Royal brother, you really have to think about what to do next. The crown prince has mobilized so many people to come here. I think he really has the confidence to convict royal brother. That 12th prince is a big problem. Xianqing's face darkened and he said, 13th brother, let's go inside and talk. Ningchen nodded and followed after him. In the third prince's mansion, Xianqing looked at the person in front of him and said, 13th brother, what do you think I should do next? Cut the weeds and get rid of the roots. Ning Chen said seriously, no matter what the truth is, when 12th prince wakes up, he will testify against you. By then, it will be too late for you to say anything. So, 12th prince must not wake up. Xianqing was silent. After a long time, he said, 12th prince must be protected by eldest prince now. It will be very difficult to get rid of him. It depends on whether you are willing to sacrifice the rook to save the king, Ning Chen said calmly. You don't lack masters. You have trained for 1,000 days to use them in a single moment. If you don't use them now, when will you? Xianqing sighed softly when he heard that. He looked exhausted. That was all he could do. Third royal brother, have you ever wondered who is behind all this? Ning Chen asked in a serious tone. I have no clue. Xianqing shook his head and said, so far, I know that the person who did this is a master with a saber. But recently, no master with a saber has entered the imperial city. I really don't understand who is behind this. It's not hard to guess. Ning Chen said seriously, you only need to think about who wants to get rid of you the most, or who will benefit the most when you are in trouble. Eldest prince. Xianqing said in a deep voice, if I fall, the biggest beneficiary will undoubtedly be him. However, I don't understand. Marquis Qingyuan and Beijing Wang are both capable subordinates of the crown prince, and the 12th prince is his brother. Why would he do such a thing? A general's success is built on thousands of bones. Ning Chen said indifferently, sacrificing 2 subordinates and 1 younger brother is undoubtedly a very worthwhile choice if we can bring down third brother. Brother, you don't really think that the first prince is someone who cherishes old friendships, do you? Xianqing's expression became increasingly gloomy when he heard the former's words. In the past, he had never thought that the first prince would be so scheming. If the truth was as the 13th prince had said, the first prince would definitely kill him at all costs. Otherwise, if he failed, the first prince's losses alone would be enough to greatly damage his vitality. Third royal brother, we can only turn the situation around if we make a decision early. The first prince is gambling, and the key chip is the 12th prince. If royal brother can destroy this chip, all the problems will be solved. At that time, the first prince will be in a dilemma. Ning Chen advised. After hearing Ning Chen's advice, Xianqing gritted his teeth and made a decision. He couldn't be moved like this anymore. He must take the initiative back in his own hands. Thinking of this, Xianqing gathered his thoughts and looked at the young man in front of him. He said seriously, thank you for reminding me. I know what to do. Since you have thought it through, I am relieved. It's getting late, so I won't stay any longer. I will leave first. Ning Chen said softly. It's not convenient for me to move now, so I won't see you off. Xianqing said apologetically. Brother, please don't see me off. When you regain control of the situation, I will bring a gift to congratulate you. Ning Chen said. He then cupped his fists and left. Seeing Ning Chen leave, Xianqing's expression gradually became serious. After a while, he turned and walked toward the back of the hall. It was time for them to make a move. Outside the third prince's residence, Ning Chen looked at the imperial army in front of him. He stopped for a few breaths and then walked away. In front of the imperial army, Xian Mo felt something. She looked at the figure outside the third prince's residence with a complicated expression. In the past, she only watched 13th prince's outstanding wisdom when dealing with the major forces in the imperial city. Today, after facing him head-on, she realized how difficult it was to deal with 13th prince. He was eloquent and took advantage of the situation. Although eldest prince seemed to have the upper hand now, Xianqing had the help of 13th prince. It was still unknown who would win and who would lose. In the distance, under the night sky, a white-haired figure in plain clothes walked alone. He was thin and looked out of place in the world. Chapter 1123. The cold night was long, and dawn never came. The assassination of the 12th prince had shaken the entire imperial city. In less than 2 hours, almost all of the imperial family knew about it. The important figures of the imperial family were awakened from their sleep. They looked at the imperial city with serious expressions. The imperial city of the three imperial families was about to change. In the crown prince's residence, Xianjun looked at the unconscious 12th prince with a worried expression. "Brother!" Xian Yu walked over and looked at the figure standing beside the bed. "12th brother hasn't woken up yet?" Xianjun shook his head. "Xian Xiu's injuries aren't light. It'll take him a long time to wake up." Xian Yu sighed. "I didn't expect 12th brother to suffer such a calamity. Xian Xiu's blood won't be spilled in vain. I'll make the murderer pay with his blood." Xianjun clenched his fists. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. He had endured for so many years, but some people had gone too far. This time, he wouldn't hold back anymore. While the two were talking, black-clothed figures appeared outside the crown prince's residence. They silently entered the residence. In the next moment, the massacre began. Blood splattered into the sky and dyed the night sky red. The 5 black-clothed figures were all above the king realm. Their terrifying cultivation completely suppressed the guards in the residence. In a few breaths, almost all of the guards were killed. Something's not right. In the room, Xianzhen's expression suddenly changed. Why was the residence so quiet? He couldn't even hear the patrolling footsteps of the guards. "Stay here. I'll go out and take a look," Xianzhen said and quickly walked out of the room. At the same time, the 5 black-clothed figures spread out their divine senses. After searching the crown prince's residence, they headed toward the nearby room. Outside the room, Xianzhen walked out. Killing intent instantly exploded. "How dare you!" Xianzhen's expression turned cold. "Trespassing in the crown prince's residence is unforgivable. Leave your lives here." As soon as he finished speaking, demonic qi surged out from Xianzhen. A terrifying aura spread out. The crown prince of the Sky Devil royal family was in the late stage of the king realm. His cultivation was close to the peak of the king realm. In the blink of an eye, Xianzhen's palm arrived. A rare desolate demonic qi surged around him, ancient and heavy. A black-clothed assassin flipped his palm to block the attack, but an ear-piercing sound of bones cracking was heard. The black-clothed assassin flew out like a shooting star, crashing into the courtyard wall with a loud bang. Poof! A pool of blood splashed out, dyeing the black clothes red. With just a single move, a black-clothed assassin was seriously injured. The other 4 didn't even see clearly what had happened. He was at the peak of the king realm. He was invincible. However, as men of sacrifice, the 4 of them were prepared to sacrifice themselves at any time. After a brief moment of shock, the 4 of them came back to their senses and rushed out to attack the crown prince. Their palms crisscrossed, creating an unstoppable momentum. The 5 of them were all king-level powerhouses with the ability to split open the heavens. However, one of them was worried about harming the innocent, while the other was worried about attracting the attention of the Imperial Guard. Both sides had their own misgivings, so they didn't create too much of a commotion when they attacked. In a close-range battle, every punch hit the flesh. The fist force penetrated the body, bringing out a waterfall of blood. Just as the 4 men of sacrifice in black were holding the crown prince back, in the distance, a severely injured man of sacrifice had disappeared without a trace. He had avoided the battle and rushed to the wing room behind. "How dare you!" Xianzhen sensed this and was furious. He pushed back the 4 men in front of him with a palm strike. Then, he flashed forward and instantly blocked the way of the man of sacrifice in black who was trying to break into the wing room. He threw out a heavy punch with demonic qi. The man of sacrifice didn't have time to block it. His body was instantly swallowed by the demonic qi, and he was sent flying hundreds of feet away. An earth-shattering vibration sounded. 100 feet away, the man of sacrifice's body exploded. Blood and bones flew everywhere, falling down like rain. The other 4 men of sacrifice were shocked. They hadn't expected the difference in strength between them and the crown prince to be so great. "I said that none of you can leave today. All of you must die," Xianzhen said coldly. He raised his hands and immediately, Feng Xiaoyun left. The entire palace was filled with demonic qi, which sealed off all escape routes. The 4 men of sacrifice looked at each other. Their eyes flashed with determination. Their lives were not important, but they had to complete the mission given to them by the crown prince. Thinking of this, the 4 men of sacrifice worked together and rushed toward the crown prince and the wing room behind him. You want to get there? Difficult. Xian Zhen snorted coldly. He stomped his foot, and in an instant, demonic chi filled the sky. 4 black demonic generals appeared and blocked the 4 men of sacrifice. The 2 sides exchanged blows. Xian Zhen activated his demonic chi to protect the crown prince residence. It was an insurmountable moat. 1 man could hold the pass against 10,000. While the 4 men of sacrifice and Xian Zhen were fighting, the 6th prince, Xian Yu, looked at the unconscious 12th prince in the wing room. After a long time, he sighed softly. It seemed that the men of sacrifice sent by the 3rd brother wouldn't be able to break through the 1st brother's defense. Time was of the essence, and there was no time to hesitate. Xian Yu walked to the bed and raised his right hand. Demonic chi surged out. 12th brother, I'm sorry. The 3rd brother will only be fine if you die. After saying that, Xian Yu's right palm landed on the 12th prince's head. You are indeed the 3rd brother's man. At this moment, a cold voice sounded in the room. When Xian Yu came back to his senses, he saw a powerful palm coming from behind him. Xian Yu's expression changed. He didn't have time to dodge and was sent flying. Behind the collapsed wall, Xian Yu staggered to his feet. He looked at the figures in front of him in shock. When did you find out? You should be asking when we trusted you. The 5th prince stepped forward and sneered. So, you have been acting all along. Xian Yu spat out a mouthful of blood and bitterly said, Why else do you think the 3rd brother left you and 12th brother behind? The 5th prince sneered. 6th brother, you followed the wrong master. If you repent now and admit that the 3rd brother sent you to commit murder, the 3rd brother and I might spare your life. I can't do that. After saying that, Xian Yu's figure flashed. He gathered energy in his palm and struck the 12th prince again. 6th brother, you have disappointed me. At this moment, a familiar voice rang out. The door was blasted open, and a powerful force blasted Xian Yu back. In the next moment, Xian Zhen, who was surrounded by demonic chi, walked into the room. Behind him, the 5 men of sacrifice in black were lying in pools of blood. Xian Yu steadied himself. When he saw the 5 dead men of sacrifice outside the room, his pupils constricted. How could this be? Keep him alive. Force him to tell us who is behind this, Xian Zhen said calmly. Yes, the 5th prince replied. He flashed forward and raised his hand to stop Xian Yu. Xian Yu didn't dare to continue fighting. He stepped forward and quickly retreated. You can't leave, Xian Zhen said indifferently. He raised his right hand and 2 demon generals appeared again to block Xian Yu's retreat. Xian Yu's eyes darkened. He looked at the 2 people in front of him and made up his mind. Demonic chi surged out of his body and he unleashed all his power. Are you going to risk your life? You don't have the right to do so. The 5th prince snorted. He stepped forward and charged at Xian Yu. In an instant, their fists collided. The powerful impact caused the entire room to collapse. Xian Zhen frowned and waved his hand to disperse the shockwave. He didn't wait any longer. He activated his demonic chi and slapped at Xian Yu. In the battle, Xian Yu blocked the 5th prince's attack, but was unable to block the 5th prince's attack. His body was sent flying out powerlessly. Capture him and seal his sea of chi. Xian Zhen glanced at Xian Yu, who was covered in blood, and said indifferently. The 5th prince nodded and stepped forward. In the pool of blood, Xian Yu coughed violently a few times, and he barely managed to stand up. He looked at the 5th prince who was walking over, and a wisp of resolute hatred appeared on his face as he said, Don't even think of obtaining any information from me. As soon as he finished speaking, Xian Yu raised his right hand. Demonic chi surged out like waves in the sky. No! The 5th prince and Xian Zhen's expressions changed. However, it was too late to stop Xian Yu. 3rd Imperial Brother, I, Xian Yu, am here to repay your kindness. Before he could finish his sentence, Xian Yu's right palm slammed into his own forehead. Instantly, terrifying devil chi that was close to the king level exploded, causing the entire 3 imperial city to shake violently. Xian Yu! In the third prince's residence, Xian Qing sensed it. He looked in the direction of the first prince's residence and his expression changed. In the first prince's residence, there was an earth-shattering explosion. The destructive power spread rapidly, destroying everything in its path. Primordial chapter. At this moment, Xianzhen didn't dare to hold back. He stepped in front of the fifth prince and released all his cultivation. The power of his small world descended to block the terrifying shockwave. After the earth-shattering explosion, blood splashed into the air. Xianzhen took several steps back. He had to bear the brunt of the explosion of the Sky Demon Prince, who was close to the King Realm. Even someone as strong as Xianzhen couldn't escape unscathed. Behind them, the fifth prince supported Xianzhen and asked anxiously, "Brother, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Xianzhen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at the destroyed residence with a complicated expression. He didn't know why Xianyu was so loyal to the third prince, but Xianyu's performance today was worthy of respect. "Tell the two demonic emperors what happened today. Don't exaggerate. Tell them what happened," Xianzhen said calmly. "Understood." The fifth prince replied respectfully. At the same time, in the 13th prince's residence, Ningchen, who had just returned, looked in the direction of the first prince's residence. It turned out that Xianyu was a spy that the third prince had placed beside the first prince. Unfortunately, this pawn could have been more useful. Now that Xianyu was dead, the third prince's situation would be even worse. However, it was enough. If Xian Qing wanted to protect himself, he had to fight back crazily and fight for the slim chance of victory. The night was too long. It was so long that people were tired of it. At the same time, in the sorcerer's sacred land, Emperor Go looked at the shaking fate above the third imperial city. He sighed. The 13th prince was indeed terrifying. "Tianxin, the war is about to start." After a while, Emperor Go calmed himself down and said softly. Chapter 11:24. A long night passed in the third imperial city. The sun shone in the east, driving away the coldness of the night. The traces of the battle in front of the Crown Prince's palace, the 12th Prince's palace, and the 3rd Prince's palace could still be seen clearly. Too many things had happened in one night. Groups of Imperial Army soldiers were running around the Imperial City. Almost all the soldiers of the Imperial Army had been sent to lock down the entire Imperial City. The 5 commanders of the Imperial Army were all around the 3rd Prince's palace. 5 kings were monitoring the 3rd Prince's palace. Inside the palace, Xian Qing stood quietly and looked at the Imperial Army soldiers gathered outside the Crown Prince's palace. "Your Highness." At this moment, a black-clothed figure appeared in front of the palace and half knelt. The Crown Prince's palace was attacked last night. More than half of it was destroyed. The Crown Prince and his people have already gone to the 5th Prince's palace. The 12th Prince is also with them. "Understood. You may leave." Xian Qing came back to his senses and calmly replied. The black-robed figure accepted the order, and in the blink of an eye, his figure faded and disappeared. Outside the 3rd Prince's palace, the leader of the 5 commanders, Xian Mo, looked at the Crown Prince's palace and patiently waited for the Emperor's order. What happened last night was too big. He couldn't make a decision on his own. What he didn't understand was why the peaceful Imperial City was suddenly in chaos. What was the 3rd Prince thinking? Even if he wanted to take down the Crown Prince, he shouldn't be in such a hurry. Could it be that the 3rd Prince felt threatened by the first Kunyi Demon Emperor's imprisonment? Commander Xian Mo, listen to the order. Just as Xian Mo was thinking, demonic chi surged in front of him. An illusory figure appeared and said, "The 2 demon emperors have ordered the commanders to lock down the 3rd Prince's palace. No one is allowed to enter or leave." "Yes, Your Highness." Hearing the order, Xian Mo respectfully bowed. He looked at the 4 commanders behind him and ordered, "Do as the order says." The 4 commanders immediately led the Imperial Army to surround the 3rd Prince's palace. What should have come has finally come. Within the 3rd Prince's palace, Xian Qing's eyes flashed. He stood up and walked out of the palace. "3rd Crown Prince, hear the decree." At this moment, a second illusory figure walked out from the void and spoke. The two demon emperors have ordered that the third prince is not to leave his residence for the next 10 days. If he disobeys, he will be severely punished. Your subject accepts the decree. Xian Qing bowed and said coldly, 10 days? Were they waiting for 12th to wake up and punish him? The two demon emperors were really good at scheming. At the same time, in the fifth prince's residence, the servants were busy preparing for the arrival of the crown prince. In front of the residence, the fifth prince personally came out to welcome him. His expression was solemn. Hopefully, there wouldn't be any more accidents along the way. Presumably, the third prince wouldn't dare to do anything too outrageous in broad daylight. On the streets of the imperial city, the crown prince and his entourage left the crown prince's residence and headed towards the fifth prince's residence. Just then, a shocking palm strike came from outer space. Its might was boundless and unparalleled, and it shook the world. In the carriage at the very front of the group, a cold snort sounded. Similarly, an incomparably powerful palm blasted out, meeting the outer heaven palm. In the void, the two palms collided. In the earth-shattering tremor, the aftermath was vast and mighty, sweeping thousands of miles away. The shocking palm caused the wind and clouds to change. In the entire imperial city, all the experts looked at the sky with shock. Were the two crown princes crazy? How dare they fight in the imperial city in broad daylight? On the streets of the imperial city, the pedestrians were frightened and fled in all directions. The scene became abnormally chaotic for a moment. In the void, black-clothed figures rushed out with powerful auras. Each of them was above the mortal dust realm, and there were even king realm auras hidden among them. They rushed towards the group below. In the carriage at the very front of the group, demonic chi soared into the sky. Xianzhen appeared and blasted out a palm strike. The sky changed color. As an expert who was close to the peak of the king realm, his aura was extremely powerful. His palm strike could destroy heaven and earth. Dozens of black-clothed figures were swallowed up. However, in the turbulent aftermath, 3 powerful figures rushed out and blocked the crown prince's palm strike. They continued to rush towards the carriage in the middle of the group. You have made me angry. The successive assassinations infuriated the crown prince of the celestial devil clan. He took a step forward and faced the 3 king realm men of sacrifice. You two hold him back. One of the 3 said with a voice transmission. His body moved even faster as he condensed yuan energy in his palm and blasted it towards the carriage below. The other 2 men of sacrifice stopped and used all their strength to block the crown prince in front of them. The 3 kings fought. The aftermath was earth-shattering. The 2 king realm men of sacrifice took several steps back. Their black robes were dyed red. However, after a moment of obstruction, one of the king realm men of sacrifice had already reached the carriage below. He slammed his palm down, causing the sky to change color. Boom! At this moment, an unprecedented palm strike shot up from the carriage below and met the king realm man. Caught off guard, the king realm man of sacrifice on the carriage grunted and was blasted hundreds of feet away. After what happened last night, do you think I'm still unprepared? In the void, Xianzhen looked at the 3 in front of him and said coldly, retreat. After the surprise attack failed, the 3 king realm men of sacrifice immediately retreated without hesitation. In order to prevent further changes, Xianzhen watched the 3 of them leave and did not chase after them. Treacherous villains, causing chaos in the imperial city. Unforgivable. At this moment, demonic aura filled the sky. A terrifying aura that could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 lands descended. The next moment, a giant palm fell from the sky and slammed toward the 3. The demonic emperor. The 3 king realm men of sacrifice looked back at the sky in shock. There was no suspense. Facing the might of the demonic emperor, the 3 of them did not even have the chance to fight back. Their bodies exploded, and blood and bones flew everywhere like rain. After the palm strike, the demonic clouds in the sky dissipated, and the demonic emperor's might disappeared. In the 3rd crown prince's residence, Xian Qing clenched his fists. Good, very good. Even the demonic emperor had intervened. This time, they really wanted to kill him. In the 13th Crown Prince's residence, Ningchen stood in front of the hall and saw everything that happened in the imperial city. It seemed that the current situation did not need his help anymore. The demonic emperor's intervention meant that the third crown prince had no way out. He had to lose. Demonic Emperor Kun was trapped in the easternmost land and would not be able to return in a short time. The balance between the three demonic emperors had been broken. If Xianqing was defeated now, the first crown prince would inherit the throne. The 12th prince could not stay in a coma forever. It would take at least 3 days and at most 10 days. This was the last time the third crown prince had. Once the 12th prince woke up, everything would be too late. 13th prince. In the sky, rays of light gathered, and an illusory figure walked out. He looked very old. Even though he was an emperor realm cultivator who had peeked into the heavens for many years, he could not stop the heavens from punishing him. Senior Go Huang. Ningchen bowed respectfully. I have seen the 13th prince's help. Thank you, Go Huang said. Senior Go Huang, please fulfill your promise and prepare to send your troops, Ningchen said calmly. The sorcerer tribe has made all the preparations. We are just waiting for your news, Go Huang said softly. The imperial city will be in chaos in 10 days at most. Then, the sorcerer tribe will attack, Ningchen said seriously. I will wait for the arrival of this day. After saying that, Go Huang's figure in the sky gradually faded away and disappeared. In the outer heavens, in the moon-worshipping clan, in front of millions of moon-worshipping clan's members, a beautiful woman lay quietly on an altar. Her body was bathed in divine moonlight, and she had yet to wake up even after a year had passed. Below the altar, Mu Qingxue and a man looked at the girl on the altar with unconcealable worry in their eyes. Why hasn't Air woken up after such a long time? After the Phoenix Nirvana, she gave her life force to her disciple without asking for anything in return. In the past, Marquis Victorious Return and the others were like this. Today, Jiming was the same. In front of the altar, thousands of moon-worshipping tribesmen prayed day and night. They understood that the high priest had sacrificed his own life to save this young lady. Only when this young lady woke up would the high priest's sacrifice not be in vain. The pure and kind moon-worshipping clan members, the untainted moon-worshipping holy ground, the last pure land in the world. In front of everyone, Mu Qingxue looked back at the moon-worshipping clan members behind him and sighed inwardly. Is this the pure land he is protecting? In his heart, what he wants the most is peace. Sister Mu, he might have gone to the devil domain. A man said softly from the side. Mu Qingxue nodded and said, with his character, he won't allow the 100 races to threaten the inner world. There are too many memories he can't let go of. 100 years have passed, but he is still so willful. As they spoke, a green lotus appeared in the sky above the moon-worshipping holy ground. The clear sky lotus's aura spread out, holy and powerful. When the green lotus appeared, the yellow springs forbidden land that sealed the moon-worshipping clan couldn't stop it. A beautiful figure walked out and walked towards the altar. Sister Qing Ning. Below the altar, a man's face lit up when she saw the person who had arrived. Qing Ning walked over and rubbed the girl's hair. She smiled and said, "Long time no see." Beside her, Mu Qingxue nodded and stepped aside. She knew that Miss Qing Ning held an irreplaceable position in Ning Chen's heart. A man couldn't, and neither could she. Do you remember? Qing Ning asked softly. Mu Qingxue shook her head. If you can't remember, then forget it. If you want to know something, let him tell you. Qing Ning smiled and said. She walked towards a white-haired old woman in front of the moon-worshipping clan and said, I am Ning Chen's elder sister. I came to see this little girl. Miss, please. The white-haired old woman didn't stop Qing Ning and said politely, Many thanks. Qing Ning nodded and walked up to the altar. Looking at her who was bathed in the moonlight, a gentle expression appeared on her beautiful face. After not seeing her for so long, didn't seem to have changed. The fate that he had inadvertently formed in the past tied him and this child together. It was worth it for him to sacrifice his phoenix body to save and it was something he should do. As a master, if he couldn't even protect his own disciple, then the title of master was undeserved. Chapter 1125. In the Reverence Moon Ancient Land, the Green Lotus descended, and Qin Ning, who had been away from the secular world for a long time, appeared. On the altar, Eva was sleeping peacefully. Her severely injured body was gradually recovering under the effect of the phoenix essence, and her aura was stabilizing. Qin Ning went forward and checked the girl's condition. She understood. Yin-Er's injuries were more serious than expected. Fortunately, her master stabilized her injuries with the phoenix essence in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even so, Yin-Er's body would be greatly affected after she woke up. However, as long as she could wake up, they could think of other ways. Thinking of this, green flames rose around Qin Ning's body, and Buddhist flames spread, engulfing the girl in front of her. The Buddhist flames refined her body, and a shocking heat wave surged. Below the altar, Ah Man and Mu Qingxue took 2 steps back. On the altar, the Buddhist flames stimulated Yin-Er, and a phoenix phantom appeared around her. Phoenix cries rang out, as if she was being reborn in flames. You brought her out of the inner world to teach her. Since you let her walk on this path, you must protect her. Qin Ning looked at the faint phoenix silhouette around Yin-Er's body and said sternly. With the help of the clear sky lotus breath and the Buddhist flames, the phoenix screeched, and endless phoenix flames rose and condensed into form. The figure with red hair and red clothes was illusory and difficult to distinguish. She looked at the disciple in front of her with a touch of gentleness in her eyes. Let's meet again if fate wills it. The last words echoed in everyone's ears. In the next moment, the red clothes scattered, turning into starlight and entering Yin-Er's body. Below the altar, a touch of sadness flashed in Ah Man's eyes. 10 years had passed, and when they met again, he didn't even have time to look at her. On the side, Mu Qingxue calmly looked at the disappearing red figure on the altar, and his expression didn't change much. Fate came and went. He had experienced too much in his life, and now, it was difficult for him to experience any more waves. It wasn't that he was tired, but that he had learned to wait. If 10 years didn't work, then 100 years. If 100 years didn't work, then 1,000 years. The phoenix would be reborn in the end. Boom! Thunder rumbled in the sky, and endless lightning and fire fell from the sky, bombarding the altar below. Below the altar, Ah Man and Mu Qingxue's expressions changed at the same time. Mortal tribulation. In an instant, Chu Xian and the Dayan Green Sparrow broke through the air, blocking the descending lightning. The 2 swords shook the immortal tribulation. In the blink of an eye, 2 beautiful figures arrived at the horizon, joining hands to resist the heavenly might. On the altar, Qin Ning looked up at the sky with a gentle smile on her face. Perhaps one day everything would be over, and they would be able to get away from this troubled world, but not yet. Sister Qin Ning. In her daze, sat up and looked at the person in front of her. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Since you're awake, go and help them. This is your mortal tribulation, so you have to face it yourself. Qin Ning raised her hand and stroked the girl's hair as she spoke softly. Came back to her senses and nodded her head vigorously. She immediately stood up and was about to circulate her martial arts when the huge phoenix fire wings on her back opened up with astonishing power. Master! Yin-Er's body trembled as her expression changed slightly. Go! Don't let down your master's efforts. Qin Ning smiled. Suppressed the shock in her heart and nodded slightly. The fire wings on her back shook, and she soared into the sky. In the void, the 2 swords shook the immortal tribulation, and the battle became more and more intense. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. The Dayan Green Sparrow's sword was extremely fast, and lightning rose. Before it had accumulated enough power, the sword Qi had already pierced through the air and restrained the heavenly might. The Chu Xn sword aura spread out, and endless sword light joined forces with the Green Sparrow to slash apart all the lightning. After 3 tribulations, the power rose sharply. Lightning gathered, and a divine general appeared in the sky. Green lightning surged, and he was extraordinarily mighty. The divine general appeared, and his halberd broke the sky and the sea. The two swords joined forces and forced them back. Master's wife, little master's wife. In-er rushed over and supported the two of them. She asked worriedly, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Man shook her head and said softly. At the side, Mu Qingxue looked at the divine general in front of him and reminded, "Be careful. The immortal tribulation of the fourth realm is extraordinary." "Don't worry, master's wife. I'll be careful," replied softly and stepped forward. Her aura rose rapidly, and the phoenix fire wings dissipated, turning into raging divine flames that surrounded her body, attacking and defending as one. Man and Mu Qingxue landed from the void, but their eyes were fixed on the sky, not daring to be careless. "Don't worry. With her master's protection, she'll be fine," Qing Ning said calmly on the altar. Boom. In the void, the divine general and In-er exchanged blows. He closed his eyes again and continued to accumulate power, waiting for the final battle. Palms crossed, halberds galloped, and the human and heavenly might clashed. Even though Tian Yu was omnipotent, before the immortal tribulation, everyone was equal. With a thump, her slender hands shook the lightning halberd, and the phoenix divine flames protected her body. Her flesh and blood could block the heavenly might. With the phoenix origin on her body, In-er's battle strength reached the peak of her life. Her every move was awe-inspiring. The violent collisions sounded one after another. The heaven speaker and the divine general of lightning clashed head-on, and each move was earth-shattering and shocking. Below, thousands of moon-worship clansmen looked at the faint phoenix image around the girl in the sky, and their expressions were filled with grief. "High Priestess, when will you return?" In the void, the battle of heavenly might overturned time and space. Facing the divine general formed by the mortal tribulation, In-er did not fight for a long time. She raised her slender hand slightly, and between heaven and earth, wind and clouds gathered. Vast spiritual energy covered her body, and her eyes suddenly opened, and her body erupted instantly. Heavenly punishment, doomsday catastrophe. Heavenly might against heavenly might. Her raised her hand and fixed the sky. In the void, a huge vortex appeared, and endless heavenly lightning broke through the sky and blasted toward the divine general of lightning. In the shocking impact, the divine general of lightning's body quickly collapsed. Even the god of lightning could not withstand the might of heavenly punishment. Below, Man and Mu Qingxue saw that In-er had successfully passed the tribulation, and they breathed a sigh of relief. In the void, In-er descended from the sky. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly staggered and vomited a mouthful of blood, dyeing her dress red. The sudden change shocked the three of them. Qing Ning stepped forward and supported the girl in front of her. The clear sky lotus breath entered her body to suppress her injuries. On the side, Mu Qingshue's expression was dignified. A year ago, when Ningchen asked the god of the Baiyue clan for help, the moon god seemed to have said that In-er's injuries were too serious. Even if he sacrificed himself to save her, In-er would not be able to recover completely. "Sister Qing Ning, master's wife, little master's wife, I'm fine." In-er stabilized her body and looked at the three worried people. She smiled and said, "It's just that I'm a little tired after passing the tribulation. Our clan has prepared a guest room. You three can take Miss In-er to rest first." In front of the altar, the white-haired old woman said in a hoarse voice, "Then we'll have to trouble you." Qing Ning replied politely, "Friends of the High Priestess are friends of the Baiyue clan. No need to be polite. This way, please." The white-haired old woman said softly and immediately went forward to lead the way. Qing Ning supported In-er and followed. Behind them, Man and Mu Qingxue also followed. "Sister Qing Ning, can Master come back?" Suppressed the sadness in her heart and asked. "He definitely can." Qing Ning nodded seriously. The phoenix's vitality was the strongest among the 10,000 races. As long as the divine flame was not extinguished, the phoenix would be reborn one day. Just as In-er successfully passed the tribulation in the primordial demon realm, in the third imperial city, The Forbidden Army sealed the city and made it difficult to move. It was an unprecedented martial law. 100,000 Forbidden Army soldiers sealed off every corner of the imperial city and searched for any potential threats. In the third Crown Prince's residence, Xianqing, who was grounded, looked at the Forbidden Army soldiers coming and going with a cold expression. Now, he was more and more convinced that everything that had happened in the past few days was a scheme set up by the first prince. Even the two demon emperors were involved. His father was not around, and the balance of power was tilted. He might have become a sacrificial lamb. He could not sit still and wait for death. He definitely could not. At the same time, in the 13th Crown Prince's residence, Ningchen stood in front of the hall with a cold gaze. The onlookers could see more clearly than the players involved. The third Crown Prince had started to become impatient and had made a series of moves. Attacking the first Crown Prince's carriage in broad daylight had undoubtedly crossed the bottom line of the two demon emperors. Xianqing's situation would become even more difficult. However, the more the two demon emperors and the first Crown Prince pressured him, the more intense Xianqing's resistance would be. Even a rabbit would bite when cornered, let alone a fully fledged heavenly demon Crown Prince. Without Demon Emperor Kun Yi around, Xianqing's sense of danger would undoubtedly be unprecedentedly strong. Now, it was up to the third Crown Prince to fight back. Right now, the key to everything was the 12th Prince. Xian Xiu's existence was like a thorn in the third Crown Prince's heart. If he could not pull it out, the third Crown Prince would not be at ease. In the 5th Crown Prince's residence, the first Crown Prince's group arrived. An unfamiliar figure walked out of the 12th Prince's carriage. His aura was extremely strong, and it attracted everyone's attention. "This is..." the 5th Crown Prince asked with a puzzled expression. "Xian Luo, the current lord of the Southwest King's territory." Xianjun introduced. "Oh." Hearing this, the 5th Crown Prince's eyes flashed. Was this the new lord of the Southwest King's territory? Legend had it that this person had defeated the previous lord of the Southwest, and his strength was extraordinary. "I think you're more interested in his other identity," Xianjun said calmly. The heavenly demon's power in the 13th Prince's body was taken from him. The 5th Crown Prince's eyes narrowed. This relationship was really interesting. "Greetings, 5th Crown Prince." Xian Luo stepped forward and bowed. "No need to be so polite," the 5th Crown Prince said. The 5th Prince said, "Since you are my royal brother's honored guest, you will also be an honored guest here. Please." "Thank you, 5th Crown Prince," Xian Luo replied. "Save the formalities for later." "5th Crown Prince, I have something to discuss with you," Xianjun said with a serious expression. "Follow me, royal brother." The 5th Crown Prince nodded and led the way. In the front hall of the residence, the 5th Crown Prince and Xianjun walked in. The 5th Crown Prince dismissed the servants and looked at the person in front of him. "Royal brother, what do you have to say?" "It's about the 3rd Crown Prince," Xianjun said seriously. Xianjun said with a serious expression. "Xianqing has made a wrong move, and he has crossed the bottom line of the two demon emperors. However, he has no other choice now. He will definitely try to get rid of the 12th Prince at all costs. We have to be careful. I've already made arrangements. As long as his men dare to come, they won't be able to return," the 5th Crown Prince said. "Xianqing, I'm not worried. After all, we've fought for so many years, and I have some understanding of him. I'm worried about the 13th Prince," Xianjun said. Chapter 1126. In the primeval demon region, the heavenly demon imperial city. Around the 3rd Prince's residence, the 4 commanders of the imperial army were watching over the 3rd Prince. The 4 commanders of the imperial army were the strongest in the imperial army. Everyone in the Crown Prince's residence was terrified and didn't know what to do. Inside the Crown Prince's residence, Xianqing was the calmest person. He obeyed the emperor's order and didn't step out of the residence. However, the more calm he was, the more nervous the 4 commanders were. They knew very well that the current situation was extremely unfavorable for the 3rd Prince. At this time, they had to be extra careful to guard against the 3rd Prince's counterattack. If a heavenly demon crown prince went berserk, his power would be beyond everyone's imagination. In the sky, the sun set in the west. The day gradually passed, and the terrifying night was about to come again. In the 13th prince's residence, Ningchen looked at the gradually approaching night outside. A cold smile flashed across his face. He was very curious. When would Xian Qing's counterattack be? In the 5th prince's residence, powerful auras loomed. In front of the wing room, Xian Zhen and the 5th prince stood quietly, waiting for the murderer to walk into the trap. However, to everyone's surprise, nothing happened in the imperial city until the eastern horizon lit up again. It was so calm that it was somewhat unimaginable. At dawn, the 4 commanders and the experts in the 5th prince's residence who were on alert all secretly sighed in relief. It seemed that nothing would happen today. Just as everyone relaxed, an earth-shattering explosion resounded in the 5th prince's residence. The 5th prince's body cracked inch by inch, and in an instant, it exploded with a loud bang. The incomparably terrifying power spread rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it flattened the entire 5th prince's residence. The remaining power didn't diminish and continued to spread to the surroundings. It was a shocking scene. The neighboring residences and heavenly demon residents were quickly swallowed by the aftermath of the explosion. Not even a corpse was left behind. Not good. In the imperial city, Xian Mo and the 4 commanders' expressions changed drastically when they saw this. They flashed and rushed to the center of the explosion. The spreading shockwaves were destructive, constantly devouring everything in its path. Xian Mo and the 4 commanders rushed over and joined hands to form seals. Demonic chi surged and blocked the rapidly spreading aftermath. Ugh! For muffled groans rang out. Under the terrifying aftershocks, the 4 King Realm commanders suffered backlash, and the corners of their mouths were dyed red. Seeing that the imperial city was about to suffer a calamity, a powerful palm energy shot out from the 9th Serenity King's mansion. It carried a shocking imperial might and blocked the shockwave caused by the explosion. Boom! Rumbling and shaking the stars, the emperor took action. The shockwave that erupted from the 5th prince's residence was forcibly suppressed and gradually disappeared. Within the 13th prince's residence, Ningchen watched the scene unfold in astonishment. After a long time, he smiled helplessly. He had underestimated the 3rd prince. He did not expect Xian Qing to have such a trick up his sleeve. Judging from the aura of the explosion just now, it was the Earth Talisman. The heaven, earth, and human talismans. Xian Qing actually got 2 of them, which was really out of his expectations. Xian Qing hid the matter of the Earth Talisman from him, but today he used this trump card. It seemed that this heavenly devil 3rd prince was really desperate. In the 9th prince's residence, Xian Ke, who was about to leave, stopped in his tracks and looked in the direction of the explosion, his face filled with shock. Was the 3rd prince crazy? The northwest of the imperial city was filled with devastation. Almost a quarter of the huge imperial city had been destroyed. The struggle for imperial power, the calculation of interests, the millions of ordinary people once again became the most innocent sacrifice. After the explosion, hundreds of miles around the 5th prince's residence had been completely razed to the ground. All that could be seen was the dazzling scorched earth. Bang, bang, bang. In the ruins of the 5th prince's residence, several figures fell to the ground. Blood flowed out, dyeing the scorched earth red. The 6 King Realm cultivators barely managed to save their own lives, but they could not save the others. Among the 6 King Realm cultivators, Xian Zhen and Xian Luo staggered to their feet, vomiting red blood. Xian Qing. Xian Zhen looked at the scene around him and roared furiously. In the 3rd prince's residence, Xian Qing looked at the northwest of the imperial city with regret. Unfortunately, he still could not get rid of his first brother. It was indeed not easy to kill someone who was close to the peak of the King Realm. He had kept this trump card because he wanted to find a chance to get rid of Xian Zhen. But now, he could not wait any longer. In front of the king's palace, Xian Qing stepped forward and walked out of the residence. In front of the residence, Xian Qing did not leave. Xian Mo and the 4 King Realm commanders rushed over. They looked at the white-robed man in front of the residence, unable to hide the anger in their eyes. Commander Xianmo and the other 4 commanders, why are all of you looking at me with such a gaze? I have not taken a single step out of my residence since yesterday. Xianqing looked at the 5 of them and smiled. Your Highness, the commoners are innocent. You have gone too far, Xianmo said in a deep voice, looking at Xianqing. I feel deeply sorry for the people who died tragically. I hope Commander Xianmo can catch the culprit as soon as possible and seek justice for the people in the city. At the same time, you can also clear my name, Xianqing said with a smile. Wei Chen will do his best to catch the culprit and bring him to justice. Xianmo looked coldly at the 3rd prince, then turned and left. The 4 commanders of the imperial army followed her. They were still a little scared. The explosion just now was too terrifying. If the demonic emperor of the abyss had not intervened, the entire imperial city would have been destroyed. In the heavenly demon ancestral land, the 7 luminaries demon emperors and 8 desolation demon emperors felt the tremors in the distant imperial city and their expressions turned gloomy. How daring! Was Xianqing going to rebel? We can't tolerate the kid any longer. Otherwise, there's no telling what he's going to do next, the 7 brilliance demon emperor said. The 8 desolation demon emperor was silent for a moment before he said, My royal brother is currently in the far north. Even if you or I were to attack Xianqing without concrete evidence, we wouldn't be able to explain ourselves when my royal brother returns. Are we just going to let him do whatever he wants? The 7 brilliance demon emperor said coldly. Xianmo and the Forbidden Army have already sealed off Xianqing's mansion. We will observe for a few days. As long as Xianmo or Xianzhen find evidence, it won't be too late for us to take action, 8 Desolation Demon Emperor said calmly. Where's 12th brother? Will he be fine? The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor asked sternly. I won't. The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor said calmly. He looked in the direction of the Imperial City and said indifferently, Xianqing has used his trump card. Xianzhen and the others are not completely unprepared. The safety of the 12th brother is the most important thing now. How can anything happen to him so easily? Oh! The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor was surprised. No one knew a son better than his father. It seemed like 8 Desolation knew where the 12th brother was. In a secret chamber in the Crown Prince's mansion, the 12th prince was lying quietly on a stone bed. His aura was calm, as if he could wake up at any moment. The Crown Prince had sent the 12th prince back to the Crown Prince's mansion as a precaution, saving Xianxiu's life by accident. Meanwhile, on the stone bed, the 12th prince's right finger twitched slightly. It was only a slight movement, but it was obvious. A moment later, the door to the secret chamber rumbled open. Xianxiu walked out with a pale face. He had yet to recover from his injuries. Crap! Xianqing's expression shifted as soon as Xianxiu walked out of the secret chamber. He immediately turned around and looked at the Crown Prince's mansion in the distance. Why was the 12th brother there? Things are getting more interesting. In the 13th prince's residence, Ning Chen had also sensed the 12th prince's aura in the distance. The corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. The 2 heavenly demon crown princes were indeed extraordinary. However, the more extraordinary they were, the more intense the battle would be. To him, the best outcome would be for the 2 heavenly demon crown princes to be severely injured. In the ruins of the 5th prince's mansion, Xianzhen sensed the 12th prince's aura in the distance. He was shocked at first, but then he quickly rushed toward the Crown Prince's mansion. In the 3rd Crown Prince's mansion, Xianqing's expression kept changing. However, the 5 commanders of the Imperial Guard were outside. It's finally coming to an end. Outside the 3rd Crown Prince's mansion, Xianmo looked at the white-robed figure standing quietly in front of the mansion with an unusually cold expression. Too many people had been sacrificed in the battle for the throne between the 2 princes. There had to be an end. The 12th prince had awakened, and the 3rd Crown Prince was powerless to reverse the situation. In the 13th Crown Prince's mansion, Ning Chen stood there for a long time before he walked out. In front of the Crown Prince's mansion, Xianxiu walked out. He felt slightly relieved when he sensed the familiar aura coming from afar. 12th brother. Soon, Xianjun arrived. He looked at the figure outside the mansion and asked, "How are your injuries?" "I'm fine now," Xianxiu replied softly. "Congratulations, 12th brother." As he spoke, a white-robed figure walked over. His white hair fluttered in the wind, making him look exceptionally dazzling. 13th brother, it's you." Xianzhen's expression darkened when he saw the newcomer. "What are you doing here?" "Since 12th brother has awakened, as your brother, I naturally have to come and congratulate you." Ningchen walked forward. When he passed by Xianzhen, he paused and said, "First brother, the explosion just now was really shocking. Are you all right?" "I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me, 13th brother," Xianzhen said in a deep voice. "It's good that you're fine." Ningchen smiled and didn't say anything else. He walked up to the 12th prince and said, "12th brother, congratulations on waking up." "Thank you," Xianxiu replied coldly. Ningchen stepped forward and patted Xianxiu's shoulder. He smiled and said, "12th brother, I look forward to your performance." Then, Ningchen looked at Xianzhen and smiled. "First brother, I won't disturb you from catching up with 12th brother. Goodbye." With that, Ningchen smiled and turned to leave. Xianxiu frowned as he watched Ningchen leave. He said, "Brother, did 13th brother come here to show off his power? We'll deal with him in the future. Let me ask you. 2 nights ago, did you personally see Xianqing barge into your mansion and start a massacre?" Xianzhen asked. "I saw it with my own eyes." Xianxiu nodded with a dark expression. "I will show my memories to the 2 demon emperors. This time, Xianqing won't be able to get away with it." "All right," Xianzhen said in a deep voice. "Let's go to the ancestral land and meet the 2 demon emperors." Ningchen walked over to the 3rd prince's mansion. The imperial army surrounded the mansion, making it difficult for even a moth to escape. 13th prince, please wait." A commander of the imperial army blocked Ningchen's path. "Commander Qi, I'm only here to talk to 3rd brother," Ningchen said with a smile. "The 3rd prince is currently under house arrest. It's best if 13th prince doesn't go in," the 2nd commander of the imperial army said. "What? I don't even have the right to talk to 13th brother?" At this moment, the door opened and Xianqing walked out. He looked at the 2nd commander of the imperial army and said coldly. Chapter 1127. In front of the 3rd crown prince's palace, the 2nd commander of the forbidden army blocked Ningchen's way. While they were in a stalemate, the gate opened and Xianqing walked out. "I don't dare." Seeing the 3rd crown prince come out to greet him, the 2nd commander bowed respectfully and left. Ningchen smiled faintly and walked in. After the gate closed, Xianqing looked at the young man in front of him and asked seriously, "13th brother, why are you here at this time?" "I do have something to discuss with you, 3rd brother." Ningchen reached out and a cyan jade talisman appeared. Compared to before, it was much dimmer. "You've used this talisman?" Xianqing's expression changed. After a while, he looked at the person in front of him and said in disbelief, "13th brother, what do you mean? Isn't the 12th prince what you're worried about? This human talisman can resolve royal brother's worries." The corners of Ningchen's mouth curved slightly. Ningchen smiled. Hearing this, Xianqing was surprised and said, "13th brother, you've done me a great favor." "You're too kind, brother." Ningchen smiled and said, "I'm honored to be able to help you." Xianqing looked at the talisman in Ningchen's hand and resisted the urge to pick it up. He said, "13th brother, I can't let you waste a talisman for nothing. What can I do to help you? Just tell me." Ningchen smiled faintly. This was what he had been waiting for. "It's not a big deal." Ningchen smiled and pretended to be casual. "3rd brother, you know about the grudge between me and Xian Luo. As long as this person is alive, I won't be able to eat or sleep well. I wanted to use the talisman to get rid of him, but I couldn't bear to see you being wronged, so I returned the talisman to you. As for your matter, now that you've used both the earth talisman and the human talisman, you can only think of a way to find the illusory heavenly talisman." "Heavenly talisman." Xianqing muttered softly and sighed in a deep voice. It's not that Imperial Brother deliberately concealed the whereabouts of the heavenly talisman. It's just that this place is too dangerous. Even those at the king's domain don't dare to rashly set foot in it. I was already lucky enough to obtain the human talisman and earth talisman from there. When he spoke up to this point, Xianqing looked into the distance and said slowly, the forbidden area of the 100 clans, Qihuang Island, was the ancestral land of the Qihuang clan. Since the Qihuang clan was annihilated, no one has been able to enter this place. In the past thousands of years, countless top-notch experts have died here. 13th brother, if you want to enter, you have to at least reach the King realm. Qihuang Island. Ning Chen frowned slightly. How come he had never heard of this place before? Brother, you haven't been in the royal family for long, so you don't know much about these secrets. The name Qihuang Island hasn't been mentioned for a long time. Xianqing sighed lightly and passed over a jade slip. He said, the matters related to Qihuang Island are recorded within it. Instead of calling it an island, it's better to call it a floating city. It's boundlessly vast, and it can be considered a miracle. Ningchen took over the jade slip and scanned through it. A strange light flashed in his eyes. It was an unbelievable place. Brother, the Crown Prince and the 12th Prince should have already left for the ancestral land. Brother, you should hurry up. Ningchen passed the human talisman to Xianqing and said seriously, I hope we can make it in time. Xianqing took over the human talisman. He couldn't suppress the waves in his heart. There was always a way out. His 13th brother had helped him a lot this time. Thank you, 13th brother. I will never forget this kindness. Xianqing cupped his fists. Compared to the importance of this human talisman, the information about Qihuang Island was not worth mentioning. Brother, you're too polite. I know you still have things to do, so I won't disturb you any longer. I'll take my leave first, Ningchen said calmly and walked out of the Crown Prince Palace. Xianqing held the human talisman in his hand and looked towards the direction of the heavenly demon ancestor. His expression turned cold. This time, he was going to prepare some gifts for the Crown Prince and the 2 demon emperors. Xianqing collected his thoughts and said, Your Highness. A black-clothed figure appeared in the void and knelt down. Get our men to prepare. This imperial city needs to be more lively. Xianqing said coldly. The black-robed figure respectfully accepted the order. A moment later, his figure merged into the void and disappeared. Ningchen walked out of the 3rd Crown Prince Palace. Not far away, the 2nd commander of the Imperial Army saw the young man and his expression turned serious. The 13th Crown Prince was the most incomprehensible among the 3 Crown Princes. When the 2 Crown Princes fought each other, both of them were injured. Only the 13th Crown Prince was unharmed. 2nd Commander. Ningchen smiled when they passed each other. Send my regards to the 1st Commander. You guys will be busy from now on. After saying that, Ningchen smiled and continued to walk forward. The 2nd commander of the Imperial Army turned around and looked at Ningchen's figure. What did the 13th Crown Prince mean? The 3rd Crown Prince had already lost. Could there still be a chance? Demonic chi surged in the heavenly demon ancestors' land. Xianzhen brought the 12th Prince over and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Father. Greetings, 7th Uncle. The 12th Prince also bowed respectfully. You may rise. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor's voice came from the depths of the ancestral land. He said calmly, 12th Prince, how are your injuries? 7th Uncle, I'm fine now. Xianxiu said respectfully. That's good. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor said, you saw the culprit last night with your own eyes. I saw it with my own eyes. The culprit is Xianqing. Xianxiu said with a dark expression. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor said in surprise, it's 3rd Prince? 12th Prince, it's not a small crime to frame the Crown Prince. Even as a prince, you can't avoid death. Do you know that? Nephew knows that everything nephew said is true. There is not a single lie. Xianxiu said with a serious expression. If that's the case, come forward. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor said calmly, I'll retrieve your memories. If it's proven that you're not lying, your father and I will give you justice." "Understood." Xian Xiu bowed respectfully and walked forward. Demonic qi lingered in the depths of the ancestral land. Xian Xiu stepped forward. The closer he got, the heavier the aura became. It was suffocating. Even 12th Prince has reached the star-shaking realm. Time really passes too quickly. A soft sigh came from the demonic qi. It was an expert from the previous generation of the royal family. "We sealed ourselves in our demonic origin, so we can't sense the change of time. However, it's almost time. Once the passage between the two realms is opened, we can use the origin energy of the sky beyond heaven to take another step forward and achieve the monarch realm," another old voice said calmly. "12th Prince, come forward," the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor said. "Yes, father." Xian Xiu accepted the order and took a few steps forward. The next moment, demonic qi gathered in the sky. 2 illusionary figures appeared. Their terrifying aura made the world tremble. At the same time, in the distant 3rd Imperial City, a white-robed figure looked in the direction of the ancestral land with a cold grin. It was time. With a bang, Xian Qing clenched his right hand, and the human talisman shattered. An indescribable power instantly exploded in the world. Even the endless space and time couldn't stop it. In the heavenly demon ancestral land, just as the 7 luminaries demon emperor was about to retrieve Xian Xiu's memories, Xian Xiu's body suddenly cracked and exploded. The 7 luminaries demon emperor and the 8 desolation demon emperor were shocked. They raised their right hand and blocked the impact of the explosion. Not far away, Shenzhen was pushed back by the impact of the explosion. He looked forward with a shocked expression. How could this be? Almost at the same time, a massacre began in the 3rd Imperial City. The spies hiding in the 1st Prince's territory suddenly attacked. The nobles couldn't react in time and had their chests pierced by sharp weapons. Dazzling blood flowers bloomed in the Imperial City. Boom! A few seconds later, a series of terrifying explosions occurred. The entire Imperial City shook violently. The shockwaves destroyed everything in sight. On the streets of the Imperial City, Ningchen stopped and looked at the explosions in all directions. His lips curled up slightly. In front of the 3rd Prince's residence, the 4 commanders of the Imperial Army were shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Crazy, the 3rd Prince had lost his mind. "Commanders, what happened?" The door of the 3rd Prince's residence opened. Xian Qing walked out and looked at the 4 with a smile. Before they could answer, the 4 flashed and rushed toward the explosion. In the 9 Serenities royal residence, demonic aura surged. The 9 Serenities demon emperor appeared and frowned at the chaos in the Imperial City. Was Xian Qing out of his mind? Did he really think the 2 demon emperors wouldn't dare to attack him without any evidence? In the heavenly demon ancestral land, demonic aura surged. The aura of an emperor swept across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. 2 demon emperors walked out and arrived at the 3rd Imperial City with thunderous fury. Xian Qing. The 7 luminaries demon emperor and the 8 desolation demon emperor appeared in the sky and said in a deep voice, "Do you admit to your crimes?" "Uncle, I don't know." Xian Qing looked at the 2 emperors in the sky and said calmly, "Very well." The 7 luminaries demon emperor replied coldly. Without saying anything else, he flipped his right hand and formed a giant palm to block the white-robed figure below. Xian Qing's expression turned cold. He raised his right hand and a black badge appeared. In an instant, imperial demonic aura swept across the area and the heavens and earth sank. With a loud boom, the imperial aura clashed and dissipated. Xian Qing took half a step back with red lips. Demon Emperor Badge. In the sky, the 7 luminaries demon emperor's expression darkened when he saw the badge in Xian Qing's hand. Kuan Yi had given the badge to Xian Qing. 7th Imperial Uncle, what did I do to make you so angry? Xian Qing looked at the person in the sky and said coldly, "Uncle, don't you think you've gone too far by attacking me without any evidence?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor's expression turned dark when he heard that. He couldn't make a decision at the moment. In the distance, on the streets of the Imperial City, Ningchen turned around and saw what was happening in front of the third prince's residence. The smile on his face widened. The heavenly demon crown prince was indeed not stupid. With Demon Emperor Kuan-Yi's Demon Emperor badge, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor and the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor would be going too far if they insisted on attacking. The 2 Demon Emperors didn't have any evidence to prove that the third prince was responsible for what had happened in the Imperial City and the ancestral land of the Heavenly Demon Ancestral Land. Grounding Xianqing was already the worst punishment. Chapter 1128. In the Heavenly Devil Imperial City, in front of the third Crown Prince's residence, an emperor descended. The pressure of heaven and earth suddenly dropped. A black badge appeared in Xianqing's hand when he saw the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor closing in on him. A dominating aura spread out and stopped the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor's order. The expressions of the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperors and the 8 Desolation Demon Emperors sank when they saw the black token in the former's hand. This unexpected change had caused the 2 of them to hesitate. Seeing the Demon Emperor's order was the same as seeing the Demon Emperor himself. Even they couldn't easily disobey the orders of the first Demon Emperor. Imperial uncles, if there's anything I've done wrong, there's no harm in waiting for Imperial Father's return to make a decision. Now, please don't make things difficult for me. Xianqing looked at the 2 Demon Emperors in the sky and said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor's eyes flickered coldly. A few moments later, he raised his right hand, unleashing a tremendous demonic aura. Up in the sky, the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor took a step forward upon seeing this. Don't be rash. The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor reminded in a serious voice. Right now, he has the Demon Emperor token in his hands. If we attack him now, it will be the same as offending Royal Brother's dignity. The gains do not make up for the losses. Why don't we temporarily put him under house arrest and let Royal Brother personally deal with him when he returns? The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor's face turned colder after hearing the words. He harumphed and waved his right hand. Half of the demonic aura dissipated, while the remaining demonic aura spread further and sealed off the third prince's residence. From today onwards, you are not allowed to take even half a step out of the residence. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor glanced at the third prince coldly before turning around and disappearing into the rift. Xianqing, take care of yourself. The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor said indifferently. He didn't stay any longer. His silhouette gradually dissipated as he left the Imperial City. Seeing the 2 Demon Emperors leave, Xianqing heaved a sigh of relief. Even though he had the Demon Emperor token to protect him, the pressure from the 2 emperors was still unbearable. Around the Crown Prince's residence, demonic qi surged and coiled, sealing off all escape routes. No one could enter or leave. Xianqing's demonic barrier didn't change much. He had already guessed that this would happen. This was good too, as it would save him a lot of unnecessary trouble. In front of the Crown Prince's residence, the Imperial army retreated one after another. The Demon Emperor had personally sealed off the Crown Prince's residence, so there was no need for them to stay any longer. Before they left, the 4 commanders of the Imperial army looked at the white-clothed Crown Prince in front of the Crown Prince's residence. Their eyes were filled with questions. So many things had happened in the past few days. Although the third Crown Prince had barely managed to protect himself, he had still brought great trouble to himself. Why had the third Crown Prince done these things? Was it just to attack the Crown Prince's power? The 4 commanders left with their questions. Now that the Imperial City was in chaos, they had many things to deal with and could not waste time here. On the streets of the Imperial City, Ningchen watched everything that happened in front of the third Crown Prince's residence in the distance. He smiled coldly and turned to leave. As expected, the 2 Demon Emperors failed to take Xianqing away. The third prince was able to stand firm in this cruel struggle for the throne. How could he be incompetent? Demonic qi was surging in the royal palace of Lord Jiuyo's mansion. After the farce in the Imperial City ended, Xian Jiuyo's figure faded and disappeared. In the Heavenly Devil Ancestral Land, the 7 luminaries Devil Emperor and the 8 Desolation Devil Emperor's avatars had returned. Their auras were concealed in their bodies, and their pressure was gradually restrained. Imperial Father, Imperial Uncle. Xianjun looked at the surging demonic qi in front of him and said in a low voice, "Are we just going to let the deaths of 5th brother and 12th brother go? If you can find evidence that Xianqing killed the princes, your imperial uncle and I can help you. If not, there is no need to say anything more." The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor's voice came from the depths of the ancestral land. A moment later, a powerful force spread out and sent Xianjun flying out of the ancestral land. Outside the ancestral land of the heavenly demons, Xianjun staggered and landed on the ground. His eyes were gloomy as he looked ahead. No matter what, he did not expect things to turn out like this. Now that 12th brother was dead, who could prove that 3rd brother was the murderer? Unable to suppress his anger, Xianjun clenched his fists. His nails pierced through his palms and blood dripped down. After a long time, Xianjun turned around and walked toward the imperial city. Since the 2 demon emperors could not help him, he could only use his own method to give them a taste of their own medicine. Boom! Thunder rumbled in the sky. After the thunder, heavy rain poured down and covered the entire world. Ah, it's raining! In the 3rd prince's residence, Shiqing ran into the hall with her head in her hands. She looked at the heavy rain and said anxiously, "His Highness did not bring an umbrella." Xiu turned around and walked into the hall. She took an oil paper umbrella and quickly walked out of the hall. "Wait for me." Shiqing saw this and quickly ran into the hall. She took the umbrella and rushed into the heavy rain. On the streets of the imperial city, a white-haired figure walked forward. The heavy rain drenched his plain clothes. "Your Highness." In the rain, Xiu quickly walked up and covered the figure with the umbrella. Seeing the two, Ningchen smiled and said, "Let's go back to the residence." The 3 of them walked forward and gradually disappeared in the rain. Boom! In the sky, lightning flashed across the sky. The lightning was dazzling and lit up the dark world. "Get ready to move." "Yes, Your Highness." Under the dark rain, black-robed figures half-knelt. Each of them was surrounded by demonic qi and was abnormally powerful. In front of them, Xianjun looked at the darkening sky. The murderous intent in his eyes became clearer. In the imperial city, Xianimo looked back at the sky and frowned. What an ominous feeling! He felt that something was going to happen tonight. In the 13th prince's residence, night fell. Ningchen sat quietly in the hall. Under the light, a scroll was spread out on the table. It was a picturesque woman. "Xinyu, wait a little longer." Ningchen looked at the woman in the painting and said gently, "1,000 years is not too long. Your husband is about to enter the mortal realm and can live even longer. I can wait until you come back." But then Ningchen looked at his white hair and smiled, "I'm old. When the time comes, you might not be able to recognize your husband." The flickering light shone on the woman in the painting. In front of the light, the plain-clothed figure looked the same as before. However, the white hair showed the ruthlessness of time. After 100 years, the white hair grew early. "Your Highness." Outside the hall, Xiu walked in with a bowl of ginger soup and said, "Your Highness just caught a cold. Drink some ginger soup." Ningchen came back to his senses and looked at the woman in front of him. He nodded and said, "Thank you. Put it down. You and Shiqing should drink a bowl each to get rid of the cold." Xiu nodded and said, "I'll send it to Shiqing later. Your Highness, drink it first. It won't have any effect when it gets cold." Ningchen smiled helplessly. He took the ginger soup and drank it in one gulp. Then he put the bowl back and said, "Okay, go. I'll take my leave." Xiu bowed gracefully and turned to leave. In the backyard, in a room, Shiqing was sitting on the bed in a daze. She would occasionally giggle. With a creak, the door opened. Xiu walked in with the ginger soup. She looked at Shiqing and said, "Shiqing, drink some ginger soup." "Your Highness, have you drunk it?" Shiqing raised her head, looked at the former, and asked curiously. Xiu replied softly, "It's good to drink it." Shiqing smiled happily. She took the ginger soup and sipped it. Not long after, Shirqing finished the ginger soup and put the bowl down. She smiled and said, "Xiu, what is your highness doing?" Looking at the portrait. Xiu put away the bowl and replied. "Portrait?" Shirqing asked curiously, "Is it still that beautiful sister?" Xiu nodded and said. Shirqing looked envious and said, "I don't know who that sister is to your highness. She makes your highness care so much." Xiu shook her head and said, "I don't know. Maybe she's your highness' sweetheart." Shirqing replied softly and said with a smile, "I used to think that the Fox Clan's saintess was the most beautiful person in the world. Now, I think your highness' sweetheart is the most beautiful." "'Kay, don't flatter. Your highness can't hear it." Xiu smiled and said, "Rest early. You've caught a cold. Don't kick off the quilt at night." Shirqing wrapped herself in the quilt and lay down. She closed her eyes and giggled inexplicably. Looking at the silly smile on the former's face, Xiu didn't ask much. She went forward and blew out the candle flame and walked out of the room. In front of the room, Xiu had just closed the door when suddenly, the ethereal sound of a zither came from the front hall. It was so unfamiliar. Xiu was surprised. "Your highness knows how to play the zither?" On the streets of the imperial city, the sound of the night watch rang out. The third watch was the king of hell's judgment. Everywhere in the imperial city, the sound of black clothes swept past. The scimitar was like the scythe of the grim reaper, mercilessly harvesting lives. Giving him a taste of his own medicine, the heavenly demon crown prince, who was unable to restrain his anger, finally went to the extreme, killing with killing. The sound of the night watch spread throughout the imperial city. It was so loud that even the pouring rain couldn't cover it. In the front hall of the 13th prince's residence, a white-haired man in white clothes was playing the zither. The divine zither in front of him was aggressive. The white tiger divine artifact, the king of hell, played again after 100 years. The faint sound of the zither spread out of the crown prince's residence and mixed with the sound of the rain. However, under the scimitar, the indistinct spirits looked in the direction of the 13th prince's residence with a blank expression. The sound of spirits falling to the ground and blood dyeing the ground red. The king of hell's song sent off the spirits. In the north, in the sorcerer race's sacred land, Emperor Go looked at the third imperial city in the distance and said calmly, "Tianxin, prepare to send out the troops." Tianxin bowed respectfully and received the order. In the third imperial city, the sound of the zither reverberated, mixed with the sound of the rain, making it difficult to hear clearly. "Do it." In the 9th prince's residence, Xian Ke looked at the kneeling figures in front of him and said calmly. Dozens of figures received the order and disappeared in an instant. After the order was given, Xian Ke looked in the direction of the 13th prince's residence. "13th prince, this time I will gamble with my life with you." Dong dong dong. In the middle of the night watch, the massacre in the imperial city broke out. Countless heads flew from the corpses, dyeing everything red. In the 13th prince's residence, a white-haired man in white clothes sat quietly. The king of hell's song, the third watch, the king of hell's song, the king of hell's song. Chapter 1129. At night, the imperial city was filled with killing intent. Blood flowed through the rain and dyed the ground red. The darkness covered all evil. Blades and swords mercilessly reaped one life after another. Blood for blood. The enraged crown prince no longer concealed his sharp claws and counterattacked. The third crown prince's residence was sealed, and no news could get in. Without the third crown prince's orders, the third crown prince's faction was severely damaged in just one night. On the streets of the imperial city, the faint sound of a zither mixed with the sound of rain echoed. "Save me!" A sudden cry for help broke the silence of the night. The imperial army experts in the imperial city turned in shock to the source of the cry. "Let's go!" The leader of the imperial army and the second marshal of the imperial army came back to their senses and rushed forward. Behind them, a group of imperial army soldiers followed and rushed forward. At almost the same time, the same thing happened in other parts of the imperial city. The imperial army soldiers heard the cry and immediately moved out. Retreat! Seeing that they had been exposed, the men of sacrifice under the crown prince and the 9th prince quickly retreated without any hesitation. At this moment, the zither music in the 13th crown prince's residence also stopped. The imperial army soldiers rushed to the various residences. What entered their eyes was a piercing red. This rain came at the right time. Within the 13th crown prince's residence, Ningchen stood up and walked to the front of the hall. Looking at the pouring rain outside, a cold light flashed through his eyes. Everything was ready. Now, all that was left was for the flames of war to ignite. In the sacred mountain of the western sacred region, the lord of the 6th palace, Shama, sat cross-legged in the 6th palace. Shama! At this moment, a dignified voice rang out from the 6th palace. You're the best diviner in the sacred region. Can you see what's going to happen in the primal demon realm? Shama spoke calmly. The witch race and the celestial demon imperial family are about to start a war. The flames of war will quickly spread and even affect the entire primal demon realm. Is that so? The lord of the sacred region sighed. What's going to come will come in the end. War is unavoidable. I hope the sacred lord can make a decision soon. Shama indifferently said. I understand. At the top of the holy mountain, under the huge statue of the sun god, the lord of the holy region nodded slightly and looked to the east. At this time, the holy capital mountain and the stone tribe should have also received the news. In the north, the 12 shaman queens gathered in front of the central altar. Their powerful king auras caused the weather to change. On the altar, Go Huang spoke with a solemn expression. Yes. The 12 shamans bowed in unison before turning around and leaving. Chaos is the time for heroes to witness. On the divine capital mountain, a tall figure clad in dark red armor stood quietly, looking down at the world with extraordinary bravery. The lord of the gods' capital mountain, Yulu, was the absolute overlord of the eastern continent. He was a valiant warrior who was bestowed the title of emperor in the gods' capital. Father, are you really going to help the shaman race start a war? The holy son of the divine capital mountain said with a grave expression. The celestial devil royal family has ruled the primitive demon realm for too long. Now it's time for a change. Yulu looked into the distance and said faintly, Get ready. Once the sorcerer tribe sends out their troops, the divine capital mountain will immediately send out our troops. The holy son of the divine capital mountain said respectfully. At the same time, in the stone race, the stone emperor looked at the changes in the primitive demon realm. After hesitating for a long time, he finally made up his mind. Get ready to attack. Yes. After the order was given, the stone emperor felt more relaxed. There was only one chance. If the 5 sovereign races couldn't end the celestial devil royal family's rule this time, they wouldn't have another chance in the future. Boom. In the 3 sovereign city, the sound of thunder filled the night sky. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. It was as if the heavens had predicted something. In the 13th prince palace, Xiu came to the front of the palace with an umbrella. When she saw the white-haired figure in the palace, her heart felt heavy. His Highness gave her a completely different feeling than usual. That coldness that kept people 1,000 miles away was bone-chilling. In the palace, Ningchen saw the figure outside. He waved his hand and put away the king of hell on the table. He said calmly, Xiu, it's late. Go and rest. Yes, Your Highness. Xiu didn't dare to disobey. She walked back to the backyard. In the imperial palace, Ningchen walked to the front of the palace. Looking at the autumn rain that was getting heavier and heavier, his expression became colder and colder. After planning for so long, the war was finally about to begin. In the 9th prince palace, Xian Ke, who also didn't sleep last night, looked outside with a serious expression. Only by taking down the eldest prince and the 3rd prince could he have a chance to take the throne. The 13th prince didn't have the royal bloodline and could never inherit the throne. So, he trusted him this time. Senior Commander. In the palace, in the heavy rain, the 4 commanders of the imperial guards all arrived. Looking at Xian Imo in front of them, they said seriously, The arsenal, Lord Ling's mansion, Wind Battalion, Shuntian Yard, and the 8th Prince's mansion were all attacked by assassins at night. They suffered heavy casualties, especially the 8th Prince's mansion. Almost everyone was killed. Hearing this, Xian Mo's expression changed. How could this be? Lightning flashed across the night sky and lit up the entire 3-sovereign city. Looking from the sky, the imperial city that had changed so much in one night was covered in blood. The demon's plan turned the celestial devil imperial city into a purgatory. People's selfishness made the demon's plan even more terrifying. In the heavy rain, the white-clothed figure stood still. She was soaked by the rain. Looking at the godly land, her tired heart became strong again. Fan Lingyue, what is your dream? Peace in the world and prosperity for the people. In the past, when war broke out in northern Meng and horses trampled on the land of the Xia dynasty, Fan Lingyue said her wish. At that time, he thought she was crazy and mocked her. But today, he walked the same path as her. He stopped war by killing and stopped war by fighting. He didn't know how many people would be sacrificed in this war, how many people would lose their homes and families, but he didn't regret it. He hoped that the world would be peaceful and there would be no more wars in the future. Boom. In the sky, lightning flashed and echoed, as if mocking the hypocritical people below, just like how he mocked her 100 years ago. The long night gradually passed and the sky brightened. The people who woke up from their dreams heard the clanking of armors on the street outside before they went out. What happened again? The people were shocked. Did something big happen last night again? Pushing open the door, they saw teams of soldiers marching on the street outside. This time, not only the Imperial Guards, but also the demon guards in front of the 3 Emperors' Palace were called over. The leader of the Imperial Guards, Xian Nimo, was patrolling the city with a serious look on her face. The warehouse, Lord Ling's mansion, Tianfeng Battalion, Shuntian Yard and the 8th Prince's mansion were all blocked by the Imperial Guards. No one was allowed to enter or leave. In the 3rd Prince's mansion, Xian Qing frowned when he saw the demon guards in the imperial city. Demon guards, what happened last night? Even the demon guards in front of the 3 Emperors' Palace were called into the imperial city. My lord! At this moment, the prince of Lord Ling's mansion, covered in blood, broke through all the obstacles and came to the 3rd Prince's mansion. However, before he reached the gate, he was caught by the demon guards behind him. The gate of the Crown Prince's mansion opened and Xian Qing walked out. Seeing the Prince of Lord Ling who was caught by the demon guards, his face changed. It was the Prince of Lord Ling. What happened to him? My lord, something happened at the Lord Ling's mansion. The Prince of Lord Ling struggled and said anxiously. However, the demon energy was surging outside the Crown Prince's mansion, cutting off all connections with the outside world. Xian Qing looked at the Prince of Lord Ling outside but could not hear what he was saying. Take him away. A commander of the demon guards said coldly. Yes. 2 demon guards picked up the Prince of Lord Ling and dragged him out of the Crown Prince's mansion. Outside the Crown Prince's mansion, Xian Qing's face sank. Something big must have happened last night. Had Xianjun started to take action? In front of the 13th Prince's mansion, the 9th Prince, Xian Ke, came with an umbrella and knocked on the closed gate. Shi Qing, open the gate. In the hall, a fire was rising, driving away the coldness brought by the cold rain. Ning Chen was boiling hot tea over the fire, concentrating as if he was doing something very important. Shi Qing walked to the gate and opened it. Seeing the 9th Prince standing outside, she bowed to him respectfully. Where is his lord? Xian Ke looked at the beautiful maid in front of him and asked. His lord is waiting in the hall. Shi Qing said respectfully. Xian Ke nodded and walked forward. In the hall, the tea was boiling and the aroma of the tea spread. Ning Chen poured a cup of tea and pushed it to the Prince of Lord Ling. 9th brother, have a cup of hot tea to warm yourself up. Xian Ke walked forward and sat down. Looking at the man in front of him, he frowned. You are still in the mood for tea at this moment? Why wouldn't I be in the mood? Ning Chen raised his head and smiled. The ones who shouldn't be in the mood are the Crown Prince and the 3rd Prince. It has nothing to do with us. The Imperial Army has surrounded the Imperial City. It's too troublesome to go out. It's better to sit in the mansion and drink tea. Are you really not in a hurry? Xian Ke was puzzled. What's there to be in a hurry about? Ningchen picked up a cup of tea and took a sip. The tea is good. You can try it. Xian Ke frowned again. Suppressing the impatience in his heart, he picked up the cup and took a sip. I don't know much about tea. 13th brother, let's talk about business. Ningchen smiled and put down the teacup. Look at the current situation. The third prince is under house arrest, and almost half of his subordinates have been cut off. The crown prince has also suffered heavy losses after being severely injured a few days ago. More importantly, last night, the crown prince wanted to retaliate against the third prince, but because of you, many important places of the royal family were destroyed. Even the 8th prince, who had been bedridden, died in the war. Tell me, do you think Xuanzhen can shirk his responsibility? I understand, Xian Ke said in a deep voice. But it's too difficult to get rid of the 2 crown princes. Do we still need to do something? Of course. Ningchen smiled and said, a one-man show will be very boring. I think the crown prince will also be bored. Now, the best way is to let the 3rd crown prince know what happened in the imperial city. This way, the show will be interesting. Xian Ke was silent. After a long time, he nodded and said, I know what to do. Not long after, Xian Ke got up and left, disappearing in the rain. Throw it away, Ningchen said. She walked forward and picked up the teacup used by the 9th prince. Then she walked out of the hall. Ningchen looked out of the hall with a cold expression. Xian Ke was too suspicious. Soon he would no longer trust him. However, he had achieved his goal. It was time to give up this chess piece. Chapter 1130. The 3rd royal city was covered in dark clouds. After the heavy rain, the sky was still gloomy. The atmosphere was so oppressive that it was hard for people to breathe. The imperial army and demon guards could be seen everywhere in the city. The entire royal city was under martial law, and everyone had to go through strict checks. In just one night, several important places of the royal family were heavily damaged. One of the princes was assassinated and his entire family was killed. The 3rd prince's forces suffered a heavy blow. Suddenly, everyone looked at the 1st prince's residence. What happened? In the 1st prince's residence, Xianzhen looked at the spy in front of him and asked coldly, Reporting to your highness, there were other people besides us last night. The 8th highness died at the hands of these people. In front, a black-clothed figure respectfully replied, Fishing in troubled waters. Xianzhen's expression turned cold. Can you find out where they came from? There are no clues so far, the black-clothed figure replied. Last night's heavy rain washed away all traces. When our people retreated, those people also left. Xianzhen looked at the royal city with a cold light in his eyes. There was no doubt that someone had predicted his actions and was prepared. This time, he would definitely be blamed for the 8th prince's death. This was troublesome. Outside the crown prince's residence, Xian Mo rushed over with 4 teams of imperial army. She looked at the crown prince's residence with a grave expression. Please report to the 1st prince that Xian Mo requests an audience. In front of the residence, Xian Mo looked at the 2 guards in front of her and said, Commander, please wait for a moment. One of the guards replied and quickly walked into the crown prince's residence. Inside the crown prince's residence, Xianzhen stood quietly. The guard walked over and bowed respectfully. Your Highness, Commander Xian Mo requests an audience. Please come in, Xianzhen said calmly. The guard accepted the order and walked back in. In front of the residence, the guard walked up and said respectfully, Commander, His Highness invites you in. Thank you, Xian Mo said. She then looked at the imperial army behind her and said, Wait here. Don't move without my orders. The 4 teams of imperial army said in unison. Xian Mo turned around and walked into the crown prince's residence. In the residence, the destroyed main hall was still not repaired. Xianzhen stood in front and looked at the person who came in. Commander, how are you? Your Highness. Xian Mo bowed respectfully and said, This humble subject has come to inquire about something. Please speak, Grand Commander. Xianzhen replied. Your Highness, do you recognize this item? Xian Mo waved her hand and a black curved blade appeared. It was a cold blade that pierced one's mind. Black Moon Blade. Xianzhen narrowed his eyes and said, the weapons of my personal guards. This saber was found in the 8th Prince's residence last night. Does your Highness have any explanation? Xian Mo asked seriously. Framing and framing. Xianzhen said indifferently, it's so obvious that the Grand Commander should be able to see through it. Your Highness, I can only do things according to the rules. Since this Black Moon Blade appeared in the 8th Prince's possession, it will be difficult for your Highness to escape suspicion. Xian Mo looked at the Crown Prince and said seriously, if your Highness can't give me a reasonable explanation, I can only offend you. Xianzhen's face darkened when he heard this. Commander, you don't have any evidence. Don't you think it's too much to pin the crime on me with just a saber? Grand brother, you're wrong. At this moment, a slightly sinister-looking noble figure walked into the Crown Prince's residence. His aura was extremely powerful and close to the King realm. Ninth brother. Xianzhen frowned. Why was he here? Greetings, Grand brother. Xian Ke walked up and bowed politely. Ninth brother, why are you here? Xianzhen asked seriously. Grand brother, I'm in charge of the law and order of the imperial city. I had no choice but to come and take a look when such a big thing happened. Xian Ke then looked at the black curved blade in Xian Mo's hand and said, if I'm not wrong, this Black Moon Blade should be the weapon of your personal guards. So what if it is? Xianzhen said in a deep voice. Although the forging method of the Black Moon Blade is a secret of the imperial family, it's not impossible to copy. Someone is framing and framing us. If you have time, you should find a way to find the culprit instead of wasting your time here. I'll find out who the culprit is. However, while I'm investigating, I'll have to trouble you not to leave the Crown Prince's residence, Xian Ke said calmly. Xian Ke's expression turned cold when he heard this. Ninth brother, do you mean to put me under house arrest? I wouldn't dare. Xian Ke said indifferently, I just hope that you'll cooperate with the investigation like third brother. At least, don't leave the residence before you're cleared of suspicion. On the side, Xian Mo quietly looked at the two princes in front of him, a strange light flashing in his eyes. How come he didn't realize that the 9th prince had such a tough side? Xian Ke's performance today really made him look at him in a new light. Given the Crown Prince's status, the 9th prince dared to step into the Crown Prince's residence today. This was not something an ordinary person could do. Your Highness, this is your duty. Please don't make things difficult for me and the 9th prince. Xian Mo calmed himself down and looked at the Crown Prince in front of him. Xianzhen frowned again. Even though he was the Crown Prince, he had to think carefully when faced with the threat of an imperial army commander and a prince with real power. While the atmosphere in the residence was tense, demonic chi surged in the air. An illusory figure appeared with a powerful aura. Crown Prince, receive the decree. The new messenger said in the air. Xianzhen immediately bowed respectfully. The Demon Emperor has decreed that Crown Prince Xianzhen is not to take half a step out of the residence. If he disobeys, he will be severely punished, the messenger said calmly. This subject receives the decree, Xianzhen said in a deep voice. He looked at the messenger in the air and said solemnly, Lord Messenger, please pass this message to the two Demon Emperors. Someone is deliberately framing us. I hope that the two Demon Emperors will investigate this matter. I will pass on His Highness's message. Farewell. As he spoke, the demonic chi in the air retracted. The messenger's figure faded and disappeared. In the Crown Prince's residence, Xian Mo and Xian Ke recovered from their shock. They didn't stay any longer and left. They didn't expect the two Demon Emperors to receive the news so quickly. After the third Crown Prince, even the first Crown Prince was placed under house arrest. When they left the residence, Xian Ke's lips curled coldly. Next, as long as the first Crown Prince was convicted of harming the 8th Prince, even Xianzhen wouldn't be able to salvage the situation. After leaving the residence, Xian Mo turned around and looked at the first crown prince's residence with a serious expression. Was it a coincidence? In just a few days, the two crown princes had been put under house arrest. This had never happened in the entire history of the Celestial Devil clan. While thinking, Xian Mo's expression suddenly changed. She looked at the ninth prince. Today, the ninth prince's behavior was unusual. Xian Mo's face became darker and darker. Was there someone behind all of this? If there was, then that person was too terrifying. In the 13th crown prince's residence, a white-haired figure stood quietly in front of the hall. In the back hall, Xiu looked at the white-haired man in front of her. Her beautiful eyes gradually lost themselves. She and Shiqing had witnessed everything that had happened in the past few days. While they were shocked, they couldn't help but feel a bit of anticipation. She didn't care about how the imperial city had changed. She wanted to know how far His Highness could go. Could he topple the two crown princes by himself? Xiu. Ningchen looked at the cloudy sky outside and said, "Actually, the outside world is very big. You two really don't need to be trapped in this small cage." Xiu was puzzled. She didn't understand what Ningchen meant. Ningchen looked at the woman in the hall and said softly, "One day in the future, you will meet the right person. You will fall in love with him and you will talk with him happily. You will tell him all the happy and unhappy things. You will cry seriously, laugh seriously, and live seriously. I hope that your life will be more real than it is now." Xiu, leave. Tears appeared in Xiu's eyes. She knelt and said, "Your Highness, this servant doesn't want to leave. Habits will always make people reluctant. However, trying a new life is what you and Shiqing should do." Ningchen sighed. "If one day I leave the Crown Prince's mansion, where will you and Shiqing go?" Xiu's body trembled. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. His Highness was leaving. "You two have been with me for so long. I don't want you to be unhappy in the future. Xiu, it's time to seriously think about what kind of life you want," Ningchen reminded her. Just as the imperial city was in chaos, the witch tribe in the north and the 12 witch empresses led the witch tribe's army south. After the witch tribe sent out their troops, the east, west, and central divine capital mountain, western divine region, and Shi tribe immediately responded. The 7 divine generals of divine capital mountain, the 12 palace lords of the divine region, and the 6 saint protectors of the Shi tribe all sent out their troops to attack the primeval demon realm. Not long after the 4 royal families sent out their troops, in the purple scale abyss in the southern continent, a majestic voice rang out and spread throughout the royal family. "Send out the troops." 4 of the 8 kings of the scaled tribe accepted the order and led their troops north. The 5 royal families sent out their troops together. Everywhere in the primeval demon realm, the flames of war immediately ignited. Before anyone could react, the 5 royal families' troops had already entered the demon realm. In the 3 royal cities, the news of the 5 royal families invading the demon realm spread quickly. In less than a day, the whole world knew about it. In an instant, everyone from the royal family to the commoners was shocked. The 5 royal families had joined forces to attack the demon realm. How could this be? In the 13th prince's residence, Ningchen did not look too happy when he heard the news. After planning for so many days, the 4 royal families had finally sent out their troops. However, there was one clan that he still could not trust. That clan was the Scaled Tribe. The Scaled Tribe was the first to invade the inner world. Even the passage between the 2 realms was most likely opened by the Scaled Tribe. On the matter of attacking the outer world, the Scaled Tribe and the Sky Demonic Royal Family were undoubtedly on the same page. Therefore, he could not trust this clan. This was also the reason why he did not go to the Scaled Tribe despite persuading the 4 royal families. However, he did not tell the other 4 royal families about these concerns. The result he wanted was for the primeval demon realm to suffer great losses. Not only the Sky Demonic Royal Family, but also the 5 royal families. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.